you guys will.
Sean, did you share the question list with her?
Yeah.
Wait.
I've got it. And I've got some
I just
answers.
have to pull it up.
Right.
So she did her homework too, but I didn't.
So although I sent out the questions, I did not do my homework, so we'll wing it.
Hey, everybody. Nobody ever knows the chaos that is going on behind the scenes, but I'm clicking on like 19 different things trying to make it all come together. But we're here. This is the kind of the second annual, even though we kind of missed a year, but we didn't purposely miss a year. We just COVID missed a year. The Ohio Beer News Review. We never came up with an official name for what this is, but here we are. We're going to talk about everything that's happened in the last, is it the last year, the last 2 years of Ohio craft beer? I don't know anything about how this is actually going to work, but everybody, let's just start. Let's start really easy. Let's all introduce ourselves and tell everybody who we are and where we're from. Let's start, since everybody can see, I guess everybody's screen probably looks the same as mine. We'll start top left and we'll work our way around somehow. And everybody, introduce yourselves.
I think that means you, Brian.
Yeah, Brian, you start. maybe
so
everybody's
on my screen. I'm dead center, so that's fine.
That answers that question.
My name is Brian. I'm here from the Northeast Ohio craft beer community. Grew up in Canton. I was telling all these lovely folks the other night that when I lived in Canton, literally nothing was happening, and now the scene is booming. I am down here in Columbus now, but still deeply rooted in Northeast Ohio, so kind of representing both areas.
So, and I'm the Gnarly Gnome from Cincinnati. I talk about Cincinnati beer. I like to drink everything, but Cincinnati is definitely the focus. There may be some Dayton thrown in there from time and time again, maybe more in the future. We won't talk about that yet, but Cincinnati.
Brought some class to the show with the button up too. I like it.
It's my adventure flannel. It's cold outside, guys.
I think I'm next, at least I am on my screen. Rob Tittle from Northeast Ohio Craft Brewery News Facebook page. About 11,000 followers now, started in 2017. We just mainly share beer news from around the state, well, around the region. So yeah, that's it. Met all these guys and gals through the beauty of social media and decided to do this end of year mashup that the gnome alluded to, that we did live 2 years ago. Had a great time with it and thought, let's do it again in a COVID world. So here we are virtually.
not nearly as fun virtually as it was in person. When we did it in person 2 years ago, we spent the entire day leading up to the actual show, driving around Columbus in the snowstorm, drinking a bunch of really great beer. I hope we've all been drinking today, but we weren't doing it together.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm next or not. I'm on my screen. I'm next to Brian.
That's fine.
I'm Kenny Hyman. I'm the brewer Seville. I have a podcast that I've been doing since April. I clearly dressed down for the occasion. Wore my best sleeveless shirt that I could find. And
I thought it was to throw up. I thought it was to show off your BrewDog tattoo, Kenny.
well, I need no sleeve. Just I could wear a t-shirt, but that's there. There's me over here because I'm such a narcissist. And so I just interview a lot of breweries in Ohio, mostly in the Northeast, Akron, Canton, Cleveland, Lorain area.
I'm Jason with the flight crew. I'm one of 6 guys who in 2008 decided we were going to try craft beer, and it took a while to take, but it took. And then somebody was dumb enough to give us an article in the Vindicator in Youngstown, and then once that closed, we transformed to the Business Journal. And for about the last 6-7 months, I think we've been, or maybe longer than that, last year, writing for the Canton Repository too, just going into breweries or restaurants that handle a lot of craft beer and giving some positive vibes and talking about the good stuff they have on and the good people working there.
So, hi everyone, I'm Sandy Hugel. I have a blog called The Brewery Log. I am based in Columbus, but the scope of my blog and really more my Instagram account is exploring breweries everywhere that I travel. This year, that's pretty much been limited to my local Columbus, Ohio area, and know a lot of the breweries here as well as other parts of Ohio. And I'm here to bring a little bit of estrogen to the discussion tonight.
We love it. Not only do you have estrogen, but you have one thing the rest of us don't have, and that's a certified Cicerone.
Well, I'm a certified beer server, and I'm studying toward my Cicerone. So,
nice. Very nice.
Yeah. In a couple months, hopefully we can call me a certified Cicerone, and that'll be a great thing because I'm actually transitioning into the industry from completely unrelated field.
Sweet.
Sean White, I got into involvement with all of these guys based on my old blog and Instagram days on Points on Pints. I now run Nostalgia Brewing in Gahanna, Columbus, Ohio. And I've been to, I think it's up to 213 breweries in Ohio. So I love traveling. I love the beer tourism, and I'm originally from Columbiana County, so have that Northeast Ohio-ish tie. 216 was originally my area code, and then it changed to 330, and so now I have a 937. So I mean, it's weird because I live in 614, so all over Ohio. Anyway, hey everybody.
So for anybody that's jumping on the live streams, I think we are live in several different places. I'm monitoring YouTube and Facebook. I think we're live on Periscope, and I think we're live on Twitch. I'm not really sure. I've never streamed to Twitch before. I don't really know how any of that works, but I think we're there. So if you are taking part in the chat, if you're on Periscope or Twitch, I'm not watching what you're saying. I don't know if any of you guys have accounts with either one of those, and you can monitor the chats there. But I'm watching YouTube and Facebook. Facebook looks like it's the most active right now, although Casey is holding it up on YouTube. So feel free to chime into the conversation. Also, if you want to get crazy, you can also call into the show. You can call the drunk line, 567-70-DRINK. That is 567-703-7465. I can't see who is calling when you call. It's just going to pop up, and I'm just going to answer. So be ready to talk. And if you are, if you're an asshole, I'll just click you off. So that's the. And if this goes wrong, I'll just turn that off. But it is live, so if you want to chime in on the conversation, feel free to do that. the like I said when we kick this thing off, the point is to talk about what has happened in Ohio beer in 2020. And with that, we have to start with the fact that 2020 has been the year of COVID, which I think, speaking for me, and I assume for everybody, when, March, what was it, March 14th? What was the day that they shut things down in Ohio?
16th, I think.
16th.
Yeah, it was like right before St. Patty's Day.
Yeah.
They announced it on the 15th and everything closed on the 16th.
Yeah.
I for one thought the absolute worst. I thought that the beer community was going to burst into flames and all but disappear, and that didn't really happen from my perspective. Yet there were some closings, and we can talk about that from everybody's different perspectives from the different sides of this the state. But we had openings. We had some really crazy stuff happen with home delivery and curbside pickup and more entertainment districts and all kinds of fun for drinkers, ways for us to get out there and consume alcohol. So let's start there. COVID. Feel free to chime in with anybody. What did you expect, and how, from your perspective, did things actually go?
I'll start.
Perfect.
So I've talked to a lot of breweries since this happened, and it's almost been exclusively, or it's been across the board. They're all down, obviously. And everyone that I've spoken to had a story of, I was up March 15th when I checked the books, and then by the time I checked the books in April or even earlier, we were down. And I've talked to some that were down, 60% from last year when they were up 20% before the closure. But I think that a lot of them did a really good job of pivoting and changing their sales models. Many of them didn't have the idea of canning anything before they started, at least not outside of a crowler, a 32-ounce crowler or something. And a lot of them switched to that 16-ounce can and started packaging and going online. And I think it's really kind of a nod of the cap to how, how easily they changed course and how diverse the brewing community is.
It surprised me how, it shouldn't have surprised me how fast people adapted to all of this. Craft beer is about adaptation, and I've talked about it on my shows plenty of times about being scrappy and just kind of, whatever is thrown at you, making that work. And so it shouldn't have been surprising that people jumped at the chance to just be different in the way they did things through all of this. But it did surprise me. I didn't expect people to adjust so quickly. And I think kind of maybe off the record, maybe not off the record, I've talked to a lot of people who are not doing bad through all of this, maybe even doing good through all of this in the way that they've shifted their business into direct shipping, pick up from the tap room, just different ways to get that beer into customers' hands. And I think that surprised me a lot.
Yeah, I think Urban Artifact is probably a prime example of that, right? They were pretty much a Cincinnati brewery that with a little bit of a foothold in the rest of the state, and they pivoted pretty quickly. I was always able to get a couple seasonal releases of Urban Artifact. You get your Key Punch and Gadget and whatnot up here, but once things started happening with them, they very quickly moved to shipping anything that they made anywhere in the state. And so very quickly I was able to get some Urban Artifact beers that I probably would have only gotten if I lived in the Cincinnati area or was able to visit the tap room. And then that's not too long after that, probably like maybe a month, they launched out of state. They pivoted probably quicker than anybody. Like they were shipping to Wisconsin, they were shipping to, probably 25 different states by middle of the summer. So yeah, hat tip to all of them for the way they've evolved and pivoted so quickly.
And I'll throw in that the Ohio Craft Brewers Association was really critical in helping all the breweries understand laws as quickly as possible. And like Betty from Fibonacci was on top of it, but she shared with the rest of us, and then Mary and Justin would confirm what details. Mary and Justin are both with the Ohio Craft Brewers Association, and they would confirm what breweries were allowed to do, and if people had questions on rules, it was we'll get back to you. They have a council as part of the Craft Brewers Association, so the collaboration statewide amongst people in the brewery guild was awesome to see, and people were throwing out ideas and helpful tips and hints. I mean, we say it all the time, but this industry is one like no other, where everybody is helping each other, even though they are quote rivals to each other. So that's great to see. And this whole March, April, it was all about learning what can we do, what are we able to do, and let's try to do it.
And being down here in Columbus, like one of the cool things was, aside from just the beer delivery or, what they were able to offer at the tap room and stuff like that, breweries like Wolf's Ridge, right? They started to package pizza and beer, ice cream and beer, cookies and beer. Like you could get charcuterie and take out, so they made it an experience that was, amplified what the normal brewery experience is, right? Like it's something that you could normally get when you're in their tap room, but now you could get it in your living room. You know what I mean? And then, I'm a big barrel-aged fan, right? So I've talked to some about the different breweries, for instance, like Braxton, look at what they've done with their outdoor dining pods, right? Like that's cool as hell. And then Warped Wing, I can't tell you how many Whiskey Rebellion days I've been to where I've been standing on that street and waiting on those beers, and the system that they shifted to do the order online, pick up in the brewery, probably gave so many more people an opportunity to get so many more of the adjuncts that they normally wouldn't be able to get if it were standing in line. So just different examples of how, people have handled things across the board. And there is a lot of negative that's come out of the year, but to what all of you have said so far, watching what these breweries have done and how they've adapted and the things that they've done, it's been crazy to see how much good they've been able to do, for themselves and in the community. And it goes statewide, right? Like I still talk to plenty of people that are up in the Cleveland, Northeast Ohio area, and it's the same stories that I'm seeing down here in Columbus and that, I'm seeing in Cincinnati. And it's awesome to see, to overcome the challenges, the curfews, the lockdown, everything that's happened. It's been wild this year, and it's awesome to see the ingenuity that exists in the industry.
One of the things that I've noticed and really appreciated are the breweries that have started offering live online tastings and those sorts of events. It's been done before. There were some places doing that before the pandemic, but it really kind of went wild and exploded during the pandemic when all of us were stuck at home. And I knew that at a certain time on Friday afternoon, I could tune in and hear about beers from Pretentious Barrel House or whoever it happened to be. So that was a really great way that breweries have been able to continue reaching out to their customers and maintaining that relationship and also educating us.
And I think the Youngstown area, we're still infants, I guess, in the state craft beer scene. The two longest running breweries here are Paladin and Birdfish. They celebrated 5 years this year. There have been some guys that have been around the business. Most of these guys grew up, home brewing, making wine, transition to beer, and there really wasn't, a lot to compete with here. So that's why we were able to successfully open some stuff up. But being that they're young and they came from other industries and stuff, some of the ingenuity they've had as far as transitioning almost immediately. I was at Birdfish the day that he made the announcement, and he's not even done speaking yet. And Josh at Birdfish is talking to the people they ordered cans from, talking to all the other local breweries that were canning at the time, going, hey, I can get this. We'll have this much extra. We'll make sure we'll shift it with you. We'll get something off you later. So they really very, very quickly not thought of just their business, but also the other guys in the area. And then around here, most of them don't serve food, but a lot of them have befriended a lot of the food trucks. So they were setting up days. You come in, you get your carry out, and you can get dinner at the food truck as well. So they made it almost like a destination to pick up something to drink, pick up something to eat, and then, go back home and be safe.
Yeah, I think Sean brought up a great point though about Mary and Justin and the OCBA, and their impact on this. Like, I mean, just their lobbying power and what they were able to do, and some of the some of the rules and regulations that were able to be changed very quickly to allow, things like home delivery.
And
I think they deserve a ton of credit for that.
And, Colin Castor is the president of the OCBA, and he's the owner of Seventh Sun and Antique Sun High. And he was lobbying for breweries to be classified with restaurants, because at first the state wanted to shut down breweries because they were bars. And, Colin made a very, impactful presence and said, hey, we provide similar, as a restaurant, so classifies us as a restaurant. And, his impact and obviously, Mary and Justin and their impact, like, breweries could have been part of the complete shutdown and no carry out would have been available, and that would have been devastating. So, it's like those people behind the scenes that you don't even know about, and their impact is just amazing, kept everybody going.
I think Sean made another good point earlier when he said this industry is kind of unlike no other, where you'd normally have competition and rivals, and they wouldn't give a hand to the other competition. But in the craft beer world, especially here in Ohio, I saw it take place right in Medina with Planted Flag Brewing Company. Their grand opening was set to be the 16th, and they had to go straight to canning things, and Matthias Hawk from Avon, who was opening Medina Brewing at the same time, took his crowler machine up to Aaron at Planted Flag and said, here's a second crowler machine, go ahead and start using it in canning. And that's what Planted Flag was doing to get started. And I mean, I can't imagine having my grand opening the day that the whole state closes down.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, I actually tried to help Aaron. I brought my crowler machine. I met him halfway. I met him in Mansfield and handed off my crowler machine to him, and the screw broke that like pops the can up. And he'd send me a message, and he's like, hey man, like every like 2 or 3 that I try to seal, it's not sealing right, and it looks like the screw is bent. We've been using it so much, didn't realize that we broke the little screw on the bottom. And turns out like that's a pretty common thing with the Octobers. Like if you're just using it and using it and using it, and like maybe beer stays on it for like a day, doesn't get cleaned out, it bends. And so I felt so bad. And he's like, no man, you helped us get like the idea of it. And then Avon helping them out with the crowler machines. Like I have another crowler machine coming, it's cool, and I have my own coming in like 2-3 weeks. Like, so we're all good. But
right.
Yeah, it's crazy the amount of people, like the crowler shortage of 2020, the can shortage. People were saying, hey, like I have a pallet available, I'll give you 100 crowler cans. And I mean, people were sharing their inventory with other breweries, and instead of just holding on to that. It was awesome to see.
Well, and then you talk about when you're talking about sharing and whatnot between the breweries, you look at the supply chain impact of simply just getting aluminum cans. For a while there, things were getting tight, and that's something that no one would have ever thought of, right? Like in 2020, we're having an issue getting aluminum cans.
Yep. I don't know if things are the same.
Brewers is incredible, but not only that, just the ingenuity with some of them. Like when they ran out of cans, I mean, Noble Beast was, and I'm sure other breweries in other parts of the state were being, creative and trying to think of how they could get their beer to customers in any way possible. But I know Noble Beast was filling up mason jars.
Yeah.
I don't know if things are the same across the state as they were here in Cincinnati. I'm not going to say that like the camaraderie of the craft beer scene was fading or dying or anything like that, but it was shifting. Like, you saw competition kind of ramping up. You saw people being a little less friendly with each other before 2020, and I feel like as soon as this happened, it like immediately it stopped everybody in their tracks and kind of made people kind of right their ship a little bit and be like, oh yeah, that's why we do what we do. That's why we opened up a brewery down the street from these guys, or in the same neighborhood as these guys. Like, we're all part of this bigger thing together, and I feel like it kind of tied people back into that more than they were before. And again, not that things were bad, but you started to see a shift happening, and this kind of smacked everybody in the back of the head and kind of reminded them, the important things about the craft beer community, I guess. We didn't even talk about what we're drinking, you guys. We're all sitting here drinking beer. I've seen people chiming in on the chat telling me what they're drinking, and we didn't talk about what we're drinking. So do we need the
from the beer fridge?
We can do that.
Yeah.
From the beer fridge.
You guys, can you hear it? It's there. Everybody chime in. I'll start. So one of our local bottle shops here in town does a beer event calendar, which you can see behind me, the
Nice.
Higher Gravity Beer Event Calendar. The greatest thing that's happened in my life in December of 2020 is this thing. And today's pick was Troeg's Mad Elf. Not Ohio,
Nice.
but it's a damn good beer. And I let my wife pull it out this morning and put it in the fridge, and she came upstairs giggling. She's like, it was this beer with this elf on the label, and he was really funny looking. I'm like, it's Mad Elf. Yes. And it's awesome.
Also, my favorite tap handle, Mad Elf. It's awesome.
I can't say that I know what the tap handle looks like.
I'll send it to you.
I too had done and I know Kenny, you've done the same. Got the advent calendar this year from BrewDog, and today the one that I pulled out was a cider, so not what I'm drinking on the show. Not opposed to ciders, just not necessarily my favorite. But I started with from Land Grant, a local offering called Dunked. I don't know if you guys have had Dunked this year. It is a fantastic stout. With cacao, vanilla, and lactose. Wonderful beer, I believe.
Did the BrewDog cider, did it have alcohol in it?
Yes. It did.
Okay,
it did.
That's good.
They were nice enough to put in some of the non-alcoholic stuff too, which always makes me chuckle a little bit. But
it's very, very nice of them.
Yeah, I had so I chose 4 beers, and then you guys made me choose the 5th one in our conversation. And so the 4 that I got, I've interviewed all these guys, and the first one was from Phoenix, and I can't show you the can label because they actually gave me a can that they thought was bad, so they gave me it without a label on it. But it's Krampus candy. It's a white stout, and it's a phenomenal white stout coffee. Oh man, it's just so delicious. It's sweet and got a nice roastiness at the same time. And then I got Tree Museum from Crooked Pecker in Chagrin Falls. I'm real tight with those guys. I think they make some of the best New Englands up this way. And I also the next
good
one after
people
that.
Too.
What's that?
Say good people too. They have the same canning line that we do.
Yeah, those guys they're
I'll
awesome.
send him a message and be like, hey man, like I'm running into this issue, and he'll send me back like, here's what we did. So yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. And actually Jay at Magic City, this is a stout has no name. It's a peanut butter stout. He got the same canning line as you and Eric over at Crooked Pecker. And then the 4th one I have is the biggest one of the night, and I'm waiting until the end to drink that. It's the full containment Project Dark Angel from Arche, the 14% caramel macchiato stout.
Nice. I'm glad you brought up the
peanut. Kenny's answers.
I'm glad you brought up
before the end.
I'm glad you brought up the peanut butter thing, because I'm kind of a peanut butter beer whore myself, and no short plug for Sean here, but I've got 2 lovely peanut butter beers from Nostalgia that I will be drinking while we're on the call today.
Nice.
All right, well, I've got a different nut in my beer. I'm repping my local neighborhood Parsons North Brewing Company, and this is their Pecan Holiday Ale. They just canned it a couple of days ago, and it's got some cinnamon in it. Really nice. It's a brown ale base.
Nice.
Also good people.
They are. That's how I met you, Sean.
True story.
Connection through Parsons North.
Big fan of nut. Love any peanut butter, but I do like seeing some different variations, different kinds of nuts and everything. So pecan, that sounds great. A couple great beers that I've had this year. For the first time, I had a pistachio beer, and that was wild. I really enjoyed that. As far as what I got in my glass tonight, I'm already through the first one, but started with sour beer, Pretentious down in Columbus. This is Sybarite, an American sour ale. And moving into one of my favorite beers of the year right now, Noble Beast Murder Ballads. It's a Baltic porter. One of my favorite things about the pandemic so far, it has been, being able to get the breweries that previously you could only get by going to their tap room, getting them in cans and being able to drink them at home. So I was super, super excited. I believe this is a GABF award winner, so was really, really stoked when Murder Ballads came out in cans.
And it made it all the way to Columbus. Cans of that made it all the way to Columbus, which, it's one of those things where like that probably never would have happened prior to COVID.
Yep.
Oh, I will be drinking Grinch from Birdfish, which I promised Sean and Brian I would send a 4-pack for them to split after the holidays. But what I have in my glass right now, if anybody's ever been to Noble Creature Cask House in Youngstown, Iris had this gigantic Italian wine barrel sitting in the corner of the bar for 3 years, full of beer. And he's doing a Solera project with it. And he just released the first cans from that today. So it's a Flemish red inspired ale, and it is phenomenal. And I didn't think we were going to get anything as good as what we just got from Ira. And, Rob's fortunate to have it. He did a old Bruin style, that crazy barrel aged Flemish red that he released a couple weeks ago. Phenomenal stuff. He's doing a lot of open fermentation and his own house culture and stuff. And he's kind of a basement troll. And it's kind of a cool place being in an old church, and barely any heat, there's no air unless it's portable in the summer. But that's another one that when they pivoted and they shut the tap room down and they were selling beer to go, they took all the spent grain and they were making bagels. So you could order bagels all week and then pick bagels and bread up on Sunday, because his wife Marcy's a phenomenal baker with what they have left over at the brewery.
I ordered Unhitched, did like a 4-brewery collaboration where they delivered it to Columbus, and
Smoking the Bandit.
Unhitched, Hi-Ho, Smoky and Bandit, and who are the other two?
Birdfish and Noble. Yeah.
There you go. And it was awesome. I mean, it was. I've been to 3 out of the 4 breweries. The only one that I hadn't been to was Noble, and I got to try some of their beer through that, which, I had it personally delivered from their owner. Like, how cool is that?
That was one of the things that I loved, especially kind of at the beginning of all of this COVID hell. We were all kind of like unsure about what this meant for our local spots. We were unsure about what this meant for us and for our jobs and for everything. Everything was just this uncertainty. And then, these breweries started to pivot, and you could call and order beer, and your bartender that you had been sitting at the bar with, a month before would pull up in your driveway in the delivery van and come to your door and drop this beer, and then you guys would stand, 30 feet apart and yell at each other across the yard. I miss you, man. I miss you too. I wish we could hug. And like that reassurance was like that little bit of normalcy in the middle of all of this chaos was, like this, the virtual high five or the long distance high five was just, it meant so much, especially then. And it still does when you get those moments. But, you didn't get that with all of these businesses that you are hurting, but these breweries that mean so much to everybody that we're sitting here with, to have that little bit of connection, just, you know, it was neat, and it's something that I don't think people are going to forget anytime soon. It's going to change, I think, the way people kind of relate to their local breweries. I think all of this becomes much more important to people.
At least 3 times I recall early on that I had beer delivered by the owner of the brewery, 3 different breweries, and that was cool.
Yeah. I have, and this is not just because I'm the gnome. Like, there are owners of breweries or people who work at breweries that text me on a very regular basis just to check and make sure everything is okay. I know that they don't just do that with me. I know that that is something that they do to lots of people, and that, like, that in itself, I mean, that means the world. Like, that, my grocery store doesn't text me and see if I'm okay. Like, they don't care. Like, and I know that well, I guess the grocery store's probably, they probably aren't the best example of somebody that's hurting through all of this. My local, you know, coffee shop, whatever it is. Is this going to be the death of Starbucks too? Is Starbucks going to finally not die, but are we going to see a rise of local coffee shops again because Starbucks can't stick through all this?
They keep closing. Like there's several around me, and like they have the weirdest hours. Some days you'll drive by at 2:00 in the afternoon and they're open. The next day they're closed at 2. I think Dunkin' Donuts has taken advantage of that, and they're still staying open till 10 o'clock. So
part of me wonders, like, if after all of this kind of settles and normalcy returns, if we see the return of more local businesses on stuff like that, you know, be it coffee shops or other things, you know, because all of a sudden now people are returning and you can have this window of, hey, we're here, we're local, you know, we want your business instead of these guys who don't matter as much. Not that they don't matter as much. I'm sorry if Starbucks is listening. You can sponsor Cincy Brewcast, by the way. Big news stories. That's I guess really the big topic of what this is. We are 40 minutes into this and we haven't even touched on news stories. What are some of the big things that you guys have seen happen in Ohio beer or Ohio-ish beer? We'll put a little regional kind of asterisk on it. What are some of the big news stories that you guys have seen that have got you excited, got you proud to be a beer drinker?
You know, I think one of the coolest stories, and it actually didn't even come from COVID, but when Marcus Baskerville put out the Black is Beautiful recipe after all of the just the bullshit that was going on, you know. I mean, and there was, I don't know how many did it in Ohio. I mean, I had specifically had at least 2, and I know there was at least 4 or 5 in the Northeast Ohio region. I'm not sure about in the Columbus and the Cincinnati areas, but I thought that was a really cool thing to do, and a lot of places took, and he gave them liberty to put their own spin on some of it, and the ones I had were great. Everyone that I had was really good, and I think it also had a great message.
I agree with that.
I think that builds into last year when they all did the beer for the firefighters out in California. I mean, it seems like anytime there's anything like that, the craft beer community is one of the first ones to all collaborate together to try to make something happen.
Is it resilience?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, resilience kind
There's
of.
also.
Go ahead, Sean.
I was just gonna say I think there were like 3 collaboration beers this year that were big. There was I remember my first beer, which is the most recent one, which was kind of like I feel like more of a marketing ploy, which was kind of, you know, you can feel however you want to feel about, you know, Dogfish Head and Untapped getting together to like make a beer collaboration. But then there was the All Together that was brewed for the support of the staff of, you know, all the breweries. So that was really cool. And then Black is Beautiful was really awesome.
Oh, and you can't forget that one. Every vote counts. I think that was another
Oh,
big
yeah.
one
Yeah,
that went
that was
across
really
the
cool
state.
too. Yeah.
That was a really unique one too, in that they said, oh, somebody's calling on the drunk line. Hey,
Get ready to hit the dump button.
Get ready.
Marco.
It's probably Marco. Hey, you're on. Who are we talking to?
It's Matt, man. What's happening?
Howdy, Matt. We are all
Matt, man.
we're all drinking. What are you drinking?
We just left Narrow Path, and we're headed to Little Miami. I think it's their 3-year anniversary this weekend. So,
shout out to especially Narrow Path this weekend, because they are just raking in the awards and getting a whole bunch of more people notice what they're doing down there. So this is Cincinnati Breweries, for anybody who's listening in other parts of Ohio who don't know either Narrow Path or Little Miami. What are some of the things that have got you kind of noticing what's going on in Cincinnati or broader in Ohio this year? What are some of the big news stories that you've noticed?
I've really tonight. The reason we went to Narrow Path is because we wanted to celebrate some medal winners.
I know like Bruce Traveler, maybe.
Well, I didn't have one of those. That's really weird. I brought one home in a crowler, but I got the Purple Miata, the Project Purple Miata,
right,
and the Tri Kettle, both of which are just amazing beers, man. And I'm not even a sour drinker, but that Purple Miata is amazing. So now we're heading down to Little Miami. I don't know. I think they got a medal. I'm not sure, but we're gonna check them out. Keep drinking.
Absolutely. What has surprised you in 2020 about the way craft beer has adapted to all of this?
I'll tell you what, man. It's been kind of crazy. So when all the COVID shit started up, which I know you guys already touched on a little bit, I was really, really nervous about what was going to happen. And a lot of the people I've talked to, kind of like what you said, are, they're kind of thriving in this environment even. But just to hear that people are coming out and supporting, which, that's my big thing about supporting local. It's great to hear that, folks are still stopping in even to get stuff to go, or the deliveries that started happening, which were amazing. That's been awesome, man. People are getting through it and still making money. So I was real nervous at the beginning, thinking that, a couple places might get closed down or whatever, which I know has kind of happened, but people seem to be doing pretty good, man. And everybody's showing love to their breweries. I mean, plus when you're in COVID, what are you going to do besides sit at home and drink?
Yeah, that's where I've leaned into. maybe that's just me, but
every time I see you drinking, you're at home, man. I watch you all the time online.
I hide down here in the basement a lot and drink by myself. It's been a fun.
Dude, if I had your basement, I'd be hiding down there all the time too, dude.
You guys can't even see the exciting part of the basement. Well, Matt, thanks for listening. And is there anything you want to plug before we dump you off?
Yeah, I'll plug the Hustle and Brews podcast. That's what I do, where I sit down with entrepreneurs, just drink beer at local craft breweries and talk about the hustle. But I really wanted to call. The main reason was I know you got a lot of influencers on the phone. I don't know everybody there, but I'm going to start following you and finding out. I appreciate everybody just supporting local, man. That's my big thing. Is if everybody shows love to local businesses, that's exactly what's going to get everybody through these hard times. And I think even in regular times, that's what needs to be done. I think it's important for all of our local economies for everybody to just show up and show love, essentially. So, good job to all of you. I appreciate it, and prost.
Yeah, thanks for listening. We'll have links to everybody's accounts in everything before the end of the night. I promise. We'll have links on all of the platforms for everybody's pages and websites and everything. So it'll make it easy for you guys to follow. Matt, keep listening and enjoy Narrow Path. When you stop in or enjoy Little Miami, when you stop in, tell them the Gnome sent you. See if you get a free beer.
I will.
You won't, for the record.
Hey, I'll call you back if I do, brother.
All right. Cheers, buddy.
All right, man. Take care.
Take care.
See, so much fun.
Hey, I mean, you got to look at things on the positive side, right? Like our first show, We didn't have a call-in segment. I mean,
Right.
we've evolved.
That's
So
right.
this is some high class shit. Makes my podcast look like a little rinky dink outfit.
It's really not as exciting. Like if you could see like the duct tape holding everything together, it's not as exciting as it looks like it is right now. So any other news stories we want to talk about before we kind of jump into some other topics?
I guess I would say like one of the big things, at least for me, being a barrel-aged fan, right? Jackie O's opening up in Columbus.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, I don't know to what extent we're going to see some of the like real high-end stuff that you get down at the, the OG locations, but I mean, having them up here is definitely awesome for the Central Ohio market.
So should we open the discussion, Sean, about David's comment on Facebook about the best street in Ohio? I cheated a little bit on my my response because I said State Route 127, which isn't fair, and it's also not fair that I include people who are close to it, like a block or two off of it. Because that, if you do it that way, it includes like Rheingeist and some of these really big breweries that are just a block or two off. But Jackie O's moving into Columbus, I think. What's that, Sandy?
4th Street.
4th Street, yeah. It's a little nuts, right? You guys talk about what's happening there a little bit.
As a person that has ridden a scooter, bird or whatever you want to call them, down 4th Street and tried to hit up the different breweries that were there. Unfortunately, it was a day that some of them were closed. It was like a Tuesday. I was going to a Clippers game. This was pre-COVID and before Jackie O's, obviously, but unfortunately, Wolfridge was closed. And I think both parties was closed, but I rode all the way down to try to catch them. And then I actually hit up, I think, the 13th floor tap room, which was the elevator at the time, and rode it all the way back down to 7th Sun to pick up something there. So, and then back down to the ball game. I mean, they're so close together. It's just bam, bam, bam. It almost feels like Asheville. Like that stretch of street is the closest to Asheville that we have in Columbus for sure.
I would say, as of right now, in Ohio, that's the closest that there is. Like, there's some really great pockets here and there, but there's not a lot of pockets the way that there is right there, right now.
Well, and right off 4th, you have Zaptig opened up a tap room in Town Village. You have Brewdog's Short North tap room that is right there on High Street. And then you have North High's tap room that's right there, like probably a block or two away from Brewdog's. And then if you go the opposite way on High Street, you have Barley's. I mean, it's just the proximity of all those places.
If you keep saying
really
Brewdogs, they're gonna think I paid you, man.
You did. I got a Venmo before this thing started.
People seem to think I've got some kind of secret thing going on with them. So,
yeah, I hate to keep bringing it back to because that really is the biggest beer story, I think, pretty much of the year. Like, I mean, it's hard to come up with another big beer story, right? But for me, I think the remarkable thing is the number of breweries, along with Jackie O's, that have announced, a second location or something during this time, right? Like, certainly don't think, I'm not downplaying anything about the environment that we're in right now, and I certainly don't think we're out of the woods. Great that there's a vaccine down the pipeline, but any kind of shutdown, I think, it is very, very dangerous and could have devastating consequences to a lot of breweries. So again, I don't think we're nearly out of the woods yet, but the remarkable thing for me is that so many have not only survived through this pandemic. There's been a relatively small amount that have closed. If you look around the state, there's been a handful, but there's probably been less than 5 that I can count. I don't know about you guys. I mean, maybe you guys know more, but there's pretty few. But you've heard more that are expanding or opening second locations, not just Jackie O's, but Little Fish just announced that they're going to open a location in Dayton. And, it just seems like you hear more and more of that. And every time I hear something like that, I'm like, are we still in a pandemic? Because it seems like an awful lot of breweries still are not only just getting by, but they are actually seem to be thriving. So,
well, one of the really difficult things to recognize is that, most of these are in planning long before
it's true.
COVID hit. So that's where it's tough to say, are people doing really well, or are they just saying like, man, we started this whole thing, we gotta move with it. Like, 50 West opening up the Chill Coffee location. Like, do they really want to open up in the middle of a pandemic? Maybe not, but rent's going to be due and they started the process. So why not like get it going? And, with like Warped Wing and their barrel house, and, it's one of those things where like you keep it going. And I think the ones that are really interesting is like Braxton moving into the 3 Points location in Pendleton. Like, that's something where, I think having an opportunity to come into an existing tap room and start fresh and bring your own identity to it. And no, I'm not going to take your thunder, but like, I mean, that's really cool. And like keeping a tap room in a neighborhood alive.
Right.
That's really cool. And I mean, to see that kind of thing, that's awesome.
I don't want to get ahead of myself on the topic list, but that brings up an interesting point.
There's a list.
Is that a potential trend for the future? Like, could we see more of the smaller breweries potentially, like a 3 Points, close, and a bigger, more thriving brewery like a Braxton take an opportunity and seize on that and say, look at this real estate, look at this, the brewing equipment's already there, the infrastructure's already there in place. We have an opportunity now to move into another market very easily with low entry cost.
Well, I mean, we saw it here in Cincinnati last year before, something like that, when March 1st took over Fig Leaf. They took over Fig Leaf, bought Fig Leaf. It became essentially another March 1st tap room, but they just kind of absorbed those brands and brought that into their portfolio, let them stay there and do their thing. If there were products that kind of filled a gap that they needed filled, here they are from the March 1st portfolio, vice versa. It opens the doors to kind of to expand what an existing tap room has to offer people. At the same time, you have places like Braxton that took over, 3 Points, that just wipes it all off the slate and brings in their own kind of vision of what that is. There's a whole spectrum there, I guess, of what taking over a space can be. It'll be interesting to see kind of in the next year, kind of how we see people kind of adapt to that side of things too.
I kind of feel like it's going to go the other way. I think that the one thing that this has shown is the local communities are supporting the smaller breweries. I think that you're going to see the smaller breweries in the local communities thrive. Even in areas like Columbus, I think you're going to see the smaller, ones that don't have the big capital get more of the love from the community. Yeah, you're going to have your tourists that come from other parts of the state or other parts of the country that specifically want to go to Columbus or Rhinegeist or the big name breweries. But I kind of feel like the little guys might, if they can weather the storm through this, I think they might actually be the ones that get the most benefit in the end.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at 2020, in Cincinnati, the closures that we've had, specifically in 2020, we had a couple late kind of 2019 that the was already kind of in the works, but you had Rock Bottom that closed. We kind of knew that was happening, right? We had 3 Points. Also, if you kind of followed what was happening in Cincinnati, you kind of knew that was going to happen. And then Moreline, they weren't the smallest tap rooms that were closing. Like, it wasn't the Nanos and the places that were really neighborhood focused, aside from 3 Points. But the places that are, I don't want to say failing because Moreline, The places that are collapsing upon themselves are not the small guys. It's either the middle kind of range that are stretching, or the big guys who jumped to that size.
Well, and to the point of that.
Good, Ryan.
I was just going to say to Kenny's point about communities rallying behind breweries, things like that. I remember in the fall, God, I can't even remember who posted it. It wasn't someone from the brewery that had posted it. It was just somebody in a Columbus group that was like, hey, like Pretentious, they're kind of struggling right now, right? Like not a lot of people are, big on the sour game, or have never tried a sour, this, that, the other. Pretentious is doing home delivery. They've got everything bottled, give them a shout, grab some stuff online. And I had actually talked to some of my other friends in Cleveland that couldn't get Pretentious at that point in time, but Pretentious had expanded, where they're going to deliver, with restrictions, right? They were going to be up in Cleveland like 1 or 2 days a week, but still like get on the website, show them some love, get some orders and whatnot. And I'm not gonna lie, I put in an order for one of their big boxes, right? I'm a sour fan. It's just sours you share, or you can't really drink like a bomber of a sour by yourself all the time, right? But still, still, it was like they put out the cry. It wasn't even the brewery that put out the cry. It was a fan. It was someone from the community, and literally 48 hours later, they were sold out of everything in bottles. So it's like seeing that and seeing the love that can get behind some of these, smaller, medium-sized breweries. Like, I don't know. It's to everyone else's point, right? I haven't seen a whole lot of shutdowns, and the ones that I have didn't come as a surprise. But when ones that were struggling were just kind of like, and the big thing that they're doing right now, right? And I'm not against the idea. I love it, right? Gift cards, or what they're calling like bonds or whatever, to buy into the brewery right now and cash it in down the road, that kind of thing. I'm cool with that. I love that idea, right? Like, because to me, it's like right now, if I've got the money to do it, 6 months down the road when I go to the brewery, it's sunk cash, right? It's not like a huge thing to me or whatever. And if that is what keeps them afloat, like I'm all for it, and it's like, you look at, how many people buy family gift cards or go to Giant Eagle and get gift cards or this, that, or the other through the holiday season, just because, especially this year, you're not going to see a lot of people, right? You might, but mail in stuff and this and that. So it's like these brewery gift cards, I think, are one of the coolest ideas to kind of evolve out of all of this for the holiday season. And I'm curious to see, once we get past the holidays, where that kind of shakes out and what that did for them.
And real quick, for people that don't know about the brewery bonds, Seven Sun is doing, I think it's a $50 gift card that in July of 2021 is equal to $100. And $100 gift card or a bond that's equivalent to $200 in 2021 July. So, they're looking at it like, hey, this is a gift card, but, what would really help us out is if you waited to use it, because I think that's the biggest thing. Like buying a gift card and then having someone come and use it right away is kind of, not as helpful, but money now, get beer later is great for that. So, it's a very, very, very smart idea. And again, it goes back to like Colin, but there are two Collins that run the show there, Colin Bent and Colin Kessler. They're genius. I mean,
that's a hell of a jump, though. To have 100% growth on that gift card, that's a little terrifying if I think about it in a different way, to say that I'm giving you, $100 now, and in July of next year that's worth $200. It's a bit of...
But it's $200 in your tap room, so it's not like, they're cashing it in for cash, they're cashing it in for beer. And hopefully in July they're bringing people to the brewery and they're sharing that $200 worth of beer. If not, it's going to take them how many visits to use that $200? Like, it's a really smart way
one and a half
to get people to buy in.
That sounds like something that could catch on even outside of a pandemic, because I know traditionally Q1 is bad for brewers anyways. So if you could sell a shit ton of bonds to, for later down the road, that certainly could help you get through Q1 anyway.
Another way I'm seeing, at least there's one example of it, of a brewery trying to secure future orders is beer subscription plans. Land Grant in Columbus is doing that. Are there others in Ohio that are doing a subscription to try to get those monthly regular orders?
Oh yeah, Urban Artifact is another one. I mean, they've been on the top of a lot of mail order stuff. They are launching their subscription program in early next year. I think Braxton has a subscription for their smoothie beers. I guess that's not really Ohio, but that's local here in town.
I think Jackie
It will
O's
be.
has one.
No, I guess that's a good point. They are technically Cincinnati.
I think
No.
Hop and Frog does, Hop and Frog does too. Some sort of a subscription club for some of their higher end releases and stuff.
Doesn't Jackie O's have some sort of club that you get like rare bottle releases every month?
I think so.
I mean, it goes to, the idea of these mug clubs and beer clubs and things. Like, most breweries do it. And if you love that brewery, why not be part of it? And if you haven't been in the past and they have spots available, go for it. It's probably $100, $150, but that helps to give them something to keep them going.
Yeah. So running down our list here of things to talk about, how does 2020 affect Ohio beer long term? Do we think that? I mean, we've been talking about some of the good stuff about it, be it delivery or clubs and stuff like that. Are there bad sides to this too? Are we going to see kind of lasting effects of people being afraid to stretch out their wings a little bit?
That's a tough one.
Well, I mean, it's opinions.
I mean, I can go from like a, industry standpoint. I think, the smaller places that were probably ready to expand a little bit, maybe buy a larger tank or go for it. Like, the reserves aren't going to be there. So they're probably a year or two behind their plans because of, using up whatever reserves or having to borrow more money. So some of these smaller places, like, it's set them back, and you're probably not going to see some of the really cool stuff. Like, you always talk about like a place like Rhinegeist brews Truth so that they can brew other stuff, right? It's the moneymaker that allows them to brew the barrel aged stuff. Well, if you don't have the money to brew barrel aged stuff, then that stuff isn't going to be available. So, what impact has not having capital done to some of these places that, they're not going to be able to have some of their cooler releases available? Yeah.
On the flip side of that, though, like, I'm seeing this year a lot of places that may have kind of been thinking about expanding and buying new tanks so that they can kind of free up the fun side of things, shifting into contract brewing, be it Urban Artifact, or I think I can say Municipal Contract brews their stuff. Like some of these breweries that may have been right on that line of saying we need to do something to expand, reaching out and going with a contract brewing scenario. Maybe that is something that we're going to see more of in the future. People, instead of dumping a ton of money into a whole new line of fermenters, just making somebody else make those core beers, and that frees up some space in their production schedule to make some fun stuff.
I think you're going to see a little bit more frugality, or however you want to say it, in the way that I've talked to a lot of guys they won't, they had big plans for 2020 before March, and I think that they have they did what they had to do to get through. They didn't drop a ton of money here and there, and I think that but I also think at the same time, you're going to see better planning from some breweries that maybe didn't have a plan B in effect and had to kind of come up with it overnight. I think you're going to have, contingency plans that in case some shit like this ever happens again, you have to be able to divert your path if you want to survive, So I think the ingenuity is gonna improve. I think the innovation is going to improve, but I also think you're going to see a little bit tighter pocketbooks for the next 12 months.
It'll be
Bradley
interesting.
Bradley brought up in the comments. He said, "I see a huge shift to off-premise sales for sure," and I mean, I think I probably agree with that. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of people are afraid to set foot in a tap room right now, and even post-COVID, I think some people's habits may have been permanently changed. Like, some people have just gotten kind of used to getting their beer delivered from home, or driving up and getting curbside pickup from their local brewery and then taking it back and drinking it home. I kind of agree with Bradley there. I think that this may be a permanent shift for a lot of people. Sucks for the breweries, because certainly we all know that taproom is their, that's where they make all their margin is taproom sales. But I don't know that we're necessarily going back. I think some of these things are here to stay.
Well, they can't go back because many of these breweries invested thousands of dollars in a canning line that they weren't planning to buy. And now they have, so they're going to use it.
Yep.
And a lot of them have gotten into local bottle shops, supermarkets, carryouts, and they're going to maintain those contracts. So that's going to keep going on. And I'm okay with that. But when it's safe to do so, I am gonna go back and belly up to the bar and talk to my bartenders and brewers and owners, because that's what I love to do.
Well, I mean, no question, I will too, and I think everybody sitting here on this show will do the same, because that's who we are and that's what we love. That's what we're missing most during this damn pandemic, is actually being in the bar and bellying up next to the bar and talking to the guy who brewed the concoction that's in your glass, or just a random stranger that's sitting next to you, having a conversation with them about beer. And we all miss that, and we're certainly going to return to that, but not everybody is. Some people have gotten kind of used to this thing and won't necessarily go back.
Well, and
I think.
Go ahead, Sean. So in my house, like, we're very split on this. My wife is definitely not comfortable right now with bellying up to a bar. I'm definitely a little more comfortable with it than she is. And coming out of this, I don't know when her return to normalcy is going to be. So, like, I can definitely see that other side of things from a person that lives here, where we have very easy means to just hang out and just drink here at home. And so it's interesting to see the simplicity of, you can get what you want and you can create an atmosphere to drink it in the way you want to. There is not that need to go out to the bar, whereas the other side, from my perspective, is, you want to shoot the shit with somebody that you don't know next to you, and that I miss that. I miss that a lot.
I'd say the one thing that will be really interesting when the summer hits is, if, we'll take Urban Artifact, for example, their off-premise sales, their to-go sales, online sales, however you want to put it, are much higher than they ever have been. If return to taproom sales are even close to what they were before, because people are getting comfortable, what does that look like from a capacity standpoint? Are they going to have, the extra beer to can, the extra beer to put out there for people to buy? Or is it going to become a situation where, we have 100 cases of this online and that's it, and then it's sold out, and then they sell out everything before you even get a chance to touch it? I think that'll be the interesting thing with the summer, because summer is generally, the outside sales, like patio drinking, was big this summer, and people that had nice patios survive through this because of outside beer sales. And I don't know, once people get a little more comfortable, the capacity constraint on a lot of these places will be really interesting to see.
I'm
The
fairly
release of that
confident.
vaccine's going to be huge too. Like that's going to give a lot. I mean, some people it's going to give a sense of comfort that maybe 70% of the people are vaccinated or 50%, and then it just gets in your mind that it's okay. Let's go.
What's wild though is like I've been going through this in a very unique perspective that I know some of you guys I've talked to about, right? Like we're 3 weeks away from my firstborn, so we've navigated COVID this entire time as also first-time parents who don't know what the hell we're doing, right? Like, and
Welcome to the club.
So we've really had to look at, what are you being told on TV, right? What are you being told on social media? What are your medical professionals telling you? And really try and navigate like what's okay, what's not, and just coming into Thanksgiving, right? I know that was a very difficult and questionable time for a lot of people going into the holiday season. We took our guidance from what our medical staff at the hospital and, the doctors and everything were telling us. And there's a lot, I think, that's been driven, obviously, as there is with any topic about anything from an election to, Tuesday's, food pantry, right? The media is going to tell you what they want to tell you. The medical folks that we've talked to were not shocked by what had happened. And it's not to downplay anything that has occurred, but in the way that our team has dealt with us through all of this, right? Like when we went to Bye Bye Baby, right? To make a registry. And when there was no real like qualm with us going to Forbidden Root for dinner, I mean, we did. And I tried everything that they had on tap because I had not been out to a restaurant in God knows how long, right? But to your point, there are people that are going to be super scared. But I also feel that the way that this year is gone, it is really, really, because I am an extrovert when I'm comfortable with you. And I'm comfortable with all of you, and I'm also drinking. So, extrovert. But when it comes to a lot of other things, I'm a very introverted person. I like to be at home. I like to cook. I like to host. I like an intimate setting kind of thing. So for a person like me, the way that this year's gone has been wonderful in terms of what you can get at home and what you can do and everything like that. But given the stresses that have come along with, and I know everybody's got different stresses this year, right? Like mine just happens to be, we're bringing our first kid into this world and I haven't been allowed to be at any of these appointments or see my friends or, really anything like that. So the opportunity, the minute that I was like, yes, we're going out. And you know what? When we found out Thanksgiving was nixed because our brother-in-law wound up with COVID and emotions were high. And, when you're, my wife being that far into the pregnancy, right? Like just emotional. I was like, fuck it, we're going out, right? And we went to Brewdog, we had dinner, we sampled everything because I live like 10 minutes from the Canal Brewdog. So I mean, it's just like, it was a given. But I mean, so it's like, I don't know. I'm in that weird like middle area where I see both sides, but I really see the positive of both sides. And I really hope that as we come out of this, I've got tons of friends that are chomping at the bit to be able to be at a bar until 2:30 in the morning, running the tab up, do it. Like that's just their life. And then I've got another half of my friends that are like, we want to do let's grill at home. Let's, get around the fire pit, that kind of thing. And I'm hoping that where we've kind of navigated in 2020, as we come out of this, is really going to appeal to both sides. And Sean, to the point that was made about, capacity and brewing capacity and things like that, like, I really hope people are kind of thinking about that going forward. Like, as we get out of this, as the vaccine comes out, as people get more comfortable, whatever the case may be, like, do we really need to look at increasing volume to sustain these people that are so used to now drinking us at home, coupled with the people that are chomping at the bit to get back to my brewery, belly up to the bar kind of thing. So I don't know. I am very optimistic given everything that's happened this year that I really think that this is something, for as shitty as it's been, that's going to benefit both your kind of introverted and extroverted beer drinkers, as long as people can keep up with it.
Amy wants to know on the chat if COVID has killed the line share, the bottle release line share. On that,
I haven't been to one in a while, so
well,
I'm
no,
not
I mean
sure.
it's definitely killed it this year, but
Definitely has killed it this year. I mean, Masthead here in Cleveland is probably one of the biggest ones in terms of, big releases and people lining up around a block and out the door, and people hanging out and sharing bottles and stuff while they're waiting to get in and get their 4-pack.
But when we start dealing with this world where you walk into, and we'll say just you walk into a tap room and you sit down, like from now on, you never know, like you were talking about, you never know about which side somebody is going to lean on. You don't know if you're sitting next to somebody that's like, I'm okay with this. I don't care if you scoot close to me and have a conversation with me and laugh with me and talk towards me and things like that, versus the other person on the other side that's like, just kind of keep your distance and like just kind of stay away from me a little bit. We can talk, but I don't want, you just never, are we ever going to like be comfortable with each other ever again? Like when you walk in, are you going to have to like, does everybody need to wear like some kind of a patch on their shoulder that tells them their COVID comfortability scale, like I just, it's the world is not, and maybe this whole maybe it'll change, but I just, right now everybody is all over the spectrum.
Yeah.
And it's too fresh right now, right? Like, but one of the things that I was reading the other day, okay, so being a football fan, right? Penn State's terrible performance this week. The stat, the trivia that they did is, when is the last time Penn State performed this bad? And it was during the Spanish flu, which was wild, But it's one of those things that like you look back and like, humans have a tendency to kind of repeat history, right? We never really learn from it. And what came after the Spanish flu of 1918, the Roaring 20s, right? One of the biggest social decades that there ever was. And could it be because people were so cooped up for 2 years that they felt the need to get dressed up and go back out again and try and find some sort of normalcy? Perhaps.
Even during Prohibition.
Yeah,
right.
Prohibition happened too, Brian. Then the stock market crashed. So I don't know how great the 20s were.
Well, but they say the Roaring 20s. You know what I mean? Like, you look at
history.
So anyway, I'm just saying I would like to think that history is going to do what it once did, and once we get through this, we're going to see that boom that we once did before. And personally, I'm hoping that like that style of like suits and nightwear and things like that of going out on the town come back, because I've been in joggers and a t-shirt for like 8 months now. I would like to get dressed up again and go do something.
But you're wearing pants?
You're also wearing pants right now. I mean,
I feel like Brian just applied to be a bootlegger too, just in case Prohibition.
Yes. If it happens,
I've gone on.
If you're listening,
I've
Brian
gone on
will
record.
run stuff illegally for you.
I've gone on record since March. If anybody needs things transported illegally, if that comes to that, I'm here for you. That's what I do.
I think by July of 2021.
That's a joke, guys. If the government is listening,
you're gonna see more. I think that's going to be your Roaring 20s uprising, July of 2021. I think 6 or 7 more months, and I think it's just, it's going to set in that the cabin fever, and you'll have that longer look at the vaccine. You'll get better numbers, and we'll have a better idea. And I think in June, July, August, I think it's going to make a big change. I think the next 6 months are going to be really, really fucking tough, though.
I think the most difficult thing will be for businesses, because this whole mask wearing requirement, however you want to put it, for businesses has been tough. There are people that don't believe it. There are people that don't care about it. And to try to force people to do something that they don't want to do is just impossible. And businesses are suffering because they're required to do so. And I think you're going to have people that don't want to wear a mask say, well, I've been vaccinated. What are you supposed to say to that? You can't ask them to show their card. You can't show like, oh, let me see your, I don't know, medical statement that said that you paid for a vaccine. Like, you can't say that. So you're going to have this weird limbo of people that are using I had a vaccine as an excuse not to wear a mask, but they haven't been vaccinated, and there's still the potential for this pandemic to be going on. So, and I say potential, it will be going on. Like, I'm not an anti-masker, everybody. I just want to make that clear.
What's crazy though too is like I talked to a brewer in one of my shows, and we were like, you literally have to have the mask on inside for like 30 seconds to walk through the door to get seated. Once you're seated, you could take it off. If you got to go to the bathroom, fine, you put it back on. But what are you going to wear it for? 2 minutes in the whole time? Like, it's not like they're telling you have to wear it while you sit there and drink and pull it down and drink and put it back up like they are in California, like a bunch of maniacs. But they just want you to do it for a couple of minutes. Just put the I'll try not to swear as much. Put the thing on, okay?
Vic already dropped the F-bomb, so you're good.
Yeah.
I had that's kind of my everybody knows me for that on the show. I'm sorry.
So when the first time I did a show, when we first started my show, we tried to keep things a little bit clean, and the first time we did our Ohio Brew Week episode out in Athens, we made a rule that the first person who got so drunk that they ended up saying, the F word, they had to chug this can of, I think it was the beer doesn't matter. It was a can of beer that had been rolling around in Cameron from Devil's Kettle. It was rolling around in his trunk for like years. It had just been hanging out back there, and the first person who said the F word had to chug the warm, nasty can of beer. We're gonna make that a rule every time we get together and do this. We're gonna have some kind of punishment for the first person.
Not fair. I'm always gonna lose.
Not that anybody cares if somebody says the F word, but
if it just means finishing our drink, I think we're all okay with that.
That's true. No, it has to be an actual punishment, something that's fun, some kind of game. I like games.
And he's gonna have to drink his entire 6-pack of Great Lakes Christmas Ale.
has to roll around in the trunk for a year.
This was a great show, guys. Thanks for having me on. I'm gonna take off now.
Do we?
8-ounce
little cans. Look at those little cans.
I love 8-ounce cans.
What is that?
That is Fresh Pots. It's Modern Methods, and Warren released it today. It's a 1-year barrel age in a Wiggle bourbon barrel, and then it's done with Youngstown coffee, cold brew.
Dude, my in-laws live up in Warren. I'm gonna have to get them on getting me some of that.
Yeah, they just released it today.
So that's finally a use for my half-pint glasses.
Yes.
I love half pints so much. I loved them more. Loved them more when I was hanging out in tap rooms, but.
Lockport has those 8-ounce cans, and when they were on my show, I went down to pick some up, and I was carrying them, and I looked like Andre the Giant holding a 24-ounce can.
There was a Crooked Tongue Brewery over in Pennsylvania, just across the border from Youngstown. Did a collaboration last year with Birdfish. They did a 12-hour boil, and they did 4 different styles of barrel-aged beers, and you get a variety pack of 2. So they released 2, and then the next month they released the other 2, and the same 8-ounce cans. And that was it was Crooked. It was Noble Creature was involved in that, and then Birdfish.
So I like the 8-ounce can idea for an advent calendar because it's just a little bit. You drink it. If you don't like it, you just go get another beer.
I love that idea.
Yeah, that's good. I like
part of what I love about the advent calendar is that you have to just drink it. Like, I love like somebody is handing me a beer and so just drink this, and like forcing myself to to drink it. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, the 8-ounce cans is like for just big giant beers that it's I know what I'm getting into, and I don't want to get into it.
I forgot to show my one of the days was
Oh, yeah.
a bandana
Bandana,
with
okay.
Brewdog. So maybe I should put that on for everybody so they can get butt hurt in some of the other groups.
Does
Hashtag
that mean
Brewdog.
you didn't get a beer that day, or you got a beer and a bandana?
No, you didn't get a beer that day. You
Oh.
just got the bandana. So
Wait. They didn't give you a beer one? Like, seriously?
well, it's $100 advent calendar, so they had to put like some swag in there. So this $10 scarf.
That's
was,
bad.
It was a cool idea. Like they,
that's bad.
I went the first day that they had said that they were available to pick up, and they've got a brewery museum, behind the check-in bar and everything. And that was shut down with just pallets of these advent calendars. Like, people went nuts for this stuff. And so you see behind me, like, I also love my bourbon, right? So I was trying to find an advent calendar between beer and bourbon that was going to, there were some Scotch ones that were a couple $100, bourbon ones that were a couple $100. And then Brewdog came out and was like, yo, we've got this $100 one. And if you sign up, on our website for our email list, you get 10%, this, that, the other. And so I was like, shit, I'm doing that. And I was okay with it, right? Like, you've got, like, I think there's 2 days where they give you merchandise. There's like 3 days where they give you some of their ciders. And then there's like 1 or 2 days, I think it's just one day, where they have like a guest beer. And that was the Trills Pilsner or whatever it was.
Oh yeah, the 8 Trills Pills, yeah.
Yeah. But for the most part, like, I was kind of pumped because as you got further into the calendar, right, they had some of their like fruited sours, they had some of their Overworks project, which if you're a sour fan and you've not tried their Overworks project, like, those are kind of cool. And they really did throw
some the AFs.
Yeah, they did. They give you Punk. I got Punk AF, and I think I don't know if they have the stout one as well. I think it might be.
No, I don't think it's a stout. I think the other one's Nanny State, I think is what they did.
That's
right,
yeah.
But you know what? It was kind of cool because they threw in, it was like a calendar that really kind of appealed to everybody. And it was a great marketing thing, right? They sold out. Like, they've taken feedback on how things have gone. Curious to see what they do next year. And then for the people that didn't do the full Advent calendar, they've did their 12 Days of Christmas calendar, which, there's multiple breweries that have done that. I'm still one of these days, I'm going to get my hands on whoever does the 12 milk stouts of Christmas or milkshakes or whatever that is.
Oh yeah, Rochester Mills, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So, but no, it's just the novelty behind it is kind of cool. And I think especially this year, a lot more people were kind of looking for something like that. And I don't know, I had fun. Like, as I went through it, I've got, I think probably like 4 of the beers they sent I didn't drink. Like, they're just hanging out in the fridge. I know friends that are going to want to drink them, but
maybe I'm a bit of a drunk. But if I'm buying an advent calendar and I punch my day and I get really excited and I reach in and it's a bandana, I'm going to be a little pissed off. Like, I want a beer every day. I want something to drink. That's why I'm buying this calendar, right? Maybe I'm crazy, but I don't know.
I mean, they had they also did their AGM online this year, their General Mayhem party, and I bought that pack. I think it was a 12 pack or whatever. And they had some big ass beers in there. They had one that was like a 14%er. They had a from their Nano Brew or Nano Dog. They had one, and it was in a can about, I think it was 8 ounces, and it had a screw top lid, and it had what is happening down there in the bottom?
Sorry,
another crotch shot.
I just realized that I never plugged my computer in, and it just popped up and said, "Hey, I'm going to sleep," and I said, "No, you're not."
Oh. I thought you were just flashing your junk.
Hashtag crotch shot.
You're like obsessed with showing us.
We charge extra for that.
Sandy, and
there are ladies present.
Yeah. Now you know we had to beg somebody to come on. So, Sean, are we going to see like a nostalgia 8-bit 8-ounce advent calendar next year?
Oh man, so I tried to put an advent calendar together. It was definitely one of the things that I got my buddies all excited about and was like, I'm gonna do this. Like I have so Grandstand, which is like a our glass manufacturer or whatever, they actually sold pre-printed, well not pre-printed, you could design your box however you wanted, but pre like advent calendar boxes. So I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. They already had the perforations and everything and ready to go. You just had to like put your branding on it. I was like, I want to do this. I want to do this. And then when it came down to actually doing it, the amount of beer that it would take to put that together is a lot. And we would have had to have done duplicates of our beers to fill up a full advent calendar, and it just didn't feel like that was the right way to go. So next year,
You could have put a bandana in one day.
Next year, I'll plan a little bit better for it and make it happen. The 8 ounce thing is tough because it goes back to your capabilities. So like our candy line does 12 or 16. The October Crowler machines, they can do, you can buy a little thing to put on top of your, candy machine can holder, and you can do anything from, 8 ounce to, 16 ounce, 19 ounce, whatever. But yeah, I mean, the main canning lines, it's like you don't have the capability to just flex and do 8 ounce because it would be way cooler to do it in an 8 ounce. You have to buy, special canning line accessories to do that. And unless you're hand canning with a Prowler machine,
right,
then you're probably not going to be able to do it, which is rough.
I've done that. I've done 8 ounce cans on a Crowler machine for 6 hours a day.
Yeah.
That's
and for places like Nostalgia, which it's either me or the brewer Rob doing it. It's like it would be 24 hours of
it's amazing how many people will volunteer to do that if you give them a little beer.
That's fair.
Is that a pun? A little beer, 8 ounce?
No, I mean just a little.
Marco has chimed in on the chat and wants to know everybody's opinions about beer events. He says,
I miss them.
The next 6 months from now, breweries will be ready to start hosting events and parties again. What are the festival and events planning on the last half of next year? So what do you guys think is going to happen with beer events next year? Are people going to be a little hesitant to get into it, or are we going to see people kind of go the opposite route and just go gung-ho and be like, oh my God, things are safe again, let's get together and let's drink a bunch of Oktoberfest beers? Or
I hope so. I mean, Rob and I were together at Winter Warmer the weekend before everything shut down. I mean, and even with that, the air of COVID out there, I mean, it's a great event. It's always nice to you really get to kind of hang out and talk to people you don't know. You get to hang out and talk to the brewers and stuff like that. And I think that's, going back to that belly up to the bar idea where you're sitting there talking to the guy that made the beer. I think people miss that. I think they miss the ability, especially now, to try things from areas that they're not normally getting beer from. Even with all the shipping across the state and people putting stuff out in the markets and stuff, there's still a lot of stuff, even in the Youngstown market we can't get. And we've got VE here, and Jeff McDevitt does a great job pulling beer from all over the state and all over the country. But, you sometimes don't get to have those all the time. And so it's nice to try, especially, with the Winter Warmer and people were bringing a lot of their bigger stuff and barrel aged stuff and stuff that's been sitting around specifically for that event. To me, I'd like to get back to it. I mean, I know there are people they're going to be skittish about it, and understandably so. And I think everybody's got to make their own decisions. I don't think you plan on doing anything in the first half of the year, but I also don't think you shirk the idea of doing something second half, or don't cancel, events just because.
I don't see any indoor beer events happening next year. I think if they can do an outdoor event, I think maybe in July, like a summer beer fest, I think you might see that, but I don't think you're going to see shit inside.
Maybe
614
614 can happen.
What's that? What did she say?
614.
Oh, yeah.
It's
a only Ohio craft breweries that are part of the Ohio Craft Brewers Association can be a part of it, and it's usually held at it was held at Huntington Park. They held it at COSI it was going to be the past 2 years, but I think they would move back to something like Huntington Park to allow, it to be completely outdoors.
That's actually what's on my glass, 614. I got these. I won one of those auctions on the Ohio Craft Beer sites. I bought the do-it-yourself beer fest kit, which included a 2-tap jockey box and a shit ton of glassware, and this I got 2 of these 614 ones.
Wow, you've got a jockey box.
Yeah.
Cool.
I wish it had kegs with it, but it did have it had the CO2, the regulator. It had the coils in it. It was like homemade. Somebody, I can't remember who Mary said built it, but yeah, it was great for a party outside next summer for sure.
Well, I know I can't wait to get back to travel. And for me, and what my blog, the Brewery Log, is about is travel and beer, but more specifically breweries and the stories of the breweries that I visit. So that's mostly Ohio breweries because I live here. But when I travel, I like to experience other breweries. And I had to cancel a trip this year to England.
ooh.
I was going to visit several of the classic breweries there: Marston's, Theakston's, Wadworth Brewing, Fuller's, Meantime. And that's been put on hold, and I'm hoping I can go in October next year. It was supposed to be April 2020. Maybe it can be October 2021, but I don't know. So we'll see if we can get back to normal travel. At least I can get around to a few of our Ohio breweries that I haven't made it to because of the pandemic. Normally, if a brewery opens, my goal is to be there opening weekend or shortly thereafter. And honestly, I've missed a lot.
No one's gonna fault you for that.
Okay.
I will. I definitely will. What is everybody else most looking forward to when we return to normalcy? Or quote unquote normalcy.
I just want to hang out with my friends again at a brewery. I just want to go and sit and order up a flight and just
Drink from the same cup.
Yeah, share cups.
Try this.
Yeah.
Sit next to people I don't know and have them spit when they talk, and I
think the ability to walk around and talk to somebody in a brewery. I mean, because I've been locally, I've been around and stuff like that, and you sit there and you're sitting in your plexiglass cubicle, or you're sitting at your long table away from everybody else, or they're 2 tables away because of restrictions and stuff like that. I miss being able to like carry a beer, walk around, have a conversation with somebody that's in a group of 8 people or 9 people, because once you hit that 10, you can't be anywhere near them, and so I miss that, the ability and the just walk around and BS about what they're drinking or what's going on, or hey, you saw them somewhere else. And
yeah, man, I agree with, because honestly, I had some of the best times at Brewdog walking around just bullshitting with people I've never met before. I'm kind of a outgoing person. You guys might not know that.
Hashtag Brewdog.
If you've seen some of my Facebook posts and stuff, maybe you do. I don't know. But yeah, man, I like to just go out and talk to people I don't even know. Like that, I just like to bullshit, about beer and about anything. And this year I went to Brewdog on the 4th of July weekend. We stayed at the hotel the Friday night or the Thursday night, and it was just a completely different feel, man. You had to be in your own table, and you could only be inside for 2 hours at a time, and then you had to change your reservation to go outside or to a different table, and it was so weird. I just missed just free forming, you know.
Well, it's tough because I go to breweries by myself a lot. A lot of my friends aren't craft beer fans, or if they are, they don't geek out about it as much as I do. And if I really want to experience a brewery and its beers, I go by myself. I sit there at the bar, I talk to the bartender, I talk to the other customers, and I haven't been able to do that. It's,
Yeah.
it's not the same when you just get your takeout.
Yep.
I agree. I think we all probably feel the same way about that. I mean, beer is a social lubricant, right? I mean, it makes an introvert an extrovert. And I know that's certainly true for me. I don't know if I'd call myself a true introvert, but certainly beer makes me more social. And I do miss that aspect of it, going into a brewery and sitting down and talking to a complete stranger. And first you start talking about the beer, and then the conversation evolves from there, and you start talking about other things, and the next thing you know, you made a friend that you might not have made otherwise. I mean, everybody here in this group, I wouldn't know any of you if not for this wonderful libation. I mean, so I just miss that social interaction. Love my family, love my 2 daughters, love my wife, love being around them. But I want to meet and be out there and see other people and talk to strangers again and get to know them. And that's the biggest thing for me, is just getting out there again.
Okay. I mean, I can second that. I love my family dearly, but you can only talk about Clifford the Big Red Dog so many times before it just gets old, and you just want to go out and just sit around and talk about whatever comes up. And I miss hugging people. I miss I just miss that interaction between. It's depressing. It's depressing to talk about, just those aspects of humanity that we've missed. Like, my kids are young. I've got, my youngest is 8 months old. My oldest is almost 4. Like, they're a big chunk of their lives. For my son, his entire life is this world. Like, they just, like, what does that do to a person to not be able to go out and, like, interact with people? And, like, especially because of what we do with all of this, like, it's such a huge part of who I am and who I want them to be. And it's just, I miss it. I miss it a lot. And I'm afraid of what this does to society if it keeps going too long.
Yeah, my wife's big into craft beer too, and we spent a lot of time, sitting at the kitchen table drinking throughout COVID, and we've been together, like, I don't know, feels like 300 years, but I think it's like 13. And actually it's 15 years, been married for 13. But there's a certain point where, like, you can't talk about shit anymore because you've already talked about everything you could possibly talk about in 13 years or 15 years, and I just want to talk to somebody new.
Well, she does too. Even like I know that you said that your wife is into this too. Like, my wife likes beer, but I don't know that she really wants to sit around and talk about beer the way that I do. Like, you walk into the kitchen.
My wife does. She loves it. She loves it. She really does. And I turned her. She used to be a wine person. Now she's a craft beer person.
For a lot of us beer drinkers, our spouses are not. They appreciate it and they encourage it, but we need to get back out there and talk to some other people before they really break down.
and then for me, like my wife is just, she's not a drinker at all, and it just is what it is. And one of the things that I really miss about a lot of breweries, and a lot of the stops that we've made on our travels or anything like that, is it's not only the beer that they put the thought into, it's the food, right? Yeah. And that's the big thing too, that, like, that's where my wife and I really get along in terms of, like, going out and doing, like, that's why we at Wolf's Ridge, right? If you've ever been down to Wolf's Ridge, their food is spectacular, right? And that's why I love hitting up some of these other breweries when they say like, oh, X and X food truck is going to be there, or, you know, like Pierogi Mountain's going to be there, or whatever, you know, that kind of stuff. And like, that's the stuff that excites her. And I mean, selfishly, I will say that it excites her and it means I have a DD, so let's go. But you know what I mean? But I mean, there are so many other just like facets of things other than just the beer that are compiled into all of this and getting back to what once was.
It's the experience.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
You guys want to drink some Great Lakes?
Yeah, let's get that shit out of the way.
I think most of us are good with that, but yeah, I think Kenny's just like, let's just get it over with.
Yeah, it's a throwaway for me, but go ahead, let's do it.
So I talked about, well, I think it's this week's episode of Cincy Brewcast. We did Christmas beers, and we talked a lot about what it is about beers like this that make them so special. And I think it's like a nostalgia thing. It's not necessarily that this is the best beer in the world. It taps into something inside your brain that brings you back to some kind of memory.
Well, this is the first one I've had in 2 years, I think.
Well, maybe this will become your memory for that beer, and every time you taste it from now on, this will be what you remember.
All right. Well,
You're not supposed to drink it through a straw, Kenny.
Kenny, I got a 2016 one sitting here if you want it.
Oh, yeah, send it all this way. That's great. I'll take that.
Am I the only one that has the can?
Yeah, I couldn't find cans.
I didn't get the memo.
Oh, my bad.
I'm drinking my Parsons North.
John, you had one job. One job.
One job.
Sandy, if I could have got my 5-pack, the rest of my 5-pack to you, I would have. Trust me.
Oh, thanks. I would take 3 of those.
You can have all 5. There's no negotiation.
Does
it's not bad
anybody?
though. It's fine. You know, it's fine. It's not. I'm not throwing up. Okay, so.
So even though they say the recipe never changes, it's the same as it always was. There are definitely good years and bad years with this, in my opinion.
Agree. Yeah, I believe you're right, Chase.
My understanding is and I haven't had it yet. I haven't tasted it tonight. I didn't get one last night. I got a 12 Dogs instead. My understanding is this is one of the better batches it's been in a while. So
It's
from what I've been told.
So comparing it, you compared it to 12 Dogs, which is a very popular comparison. It's easier drinking. It's not as spice forward. It just reminds me of Christmas for some reason, and I don't know why.
Well, I think for a lot of people, this is the original Christmas ale.
Yeah.
I mean, and for the longest time, other breweries from around the country that were brewing Christmas ales were brewing it specifically for this area of the country because the style was kind of transformed here, I would think, to a certain degree. I mean, obviously, other people have probably brewed a Christmas ale, spiced ales, and they've been probably doing spiced ales for 100 years in Europe. But I think for the craft beer in this country, this was kind of this is it. This is the grandfather Christmas ale, and I think that brings a lot of nostalgia for a lot of people.
I think there's 2 things that piss me off about it. I'm sorry, Rob, I interrupted you. You can go and I can come back.
No, I mean, there is a nostalgia factor for me for sure. I've always been a little bit off the beaten path with my beer tastes compared to a lot of other people. I mean, even in college, like I couldn't stand the Natty Light and the Busch Light and stuff that everybody else was drinking. And so I was always more of a Sam Adams, Pete's Wicked Ale kind of guy.
Jetty Cream Ale.
but
I was a Rolling Rock guy.
It really started to evolve. Excuse me. It really started to evolve in like the early, 2010. I mean, about a decade ago. And I remember 2010, 2011, Great Lakes Christmas Ale would come out. And if you didn't get your 6-pack before like December 2nd, forget about it. Like you couldn't find it the rest of December. Like it was impossible to find. It was a quest for a lot of people. It was just, it was that big of a deal in the Cleveland area. Christmas Ale came out and everybody went nuts. Everybody went apeshit.
Yeah.
And now, 10 years later, literally every brewery in Northeast Ohio makes a Christmas Ale, and they're all striving to be what Great Lakes was or is. To me, they're the OG. There's certainly now more and this is not a slam on Great Lakes by any means, but there's other breweries making them and making them, to my tastes, better. But they're still and always are going to be the OG.
I think the thing that go ahead. I'm sorry.
In Columbus, we've got Barley's Christmas Ale, which also has a storied past and always has a great big beer release. Of course, this year, a little bit anticlimactic, but Barley's, if anyone's had that, their Christmas Ale is pretty decent here in Columbus.
And they've been making it as long, if not longer, than Great Lakes. I mean, Great Lakes gets all this street cred, right? Like, because they're the biggest brewery in Ohio, bar none. But I mean, Barley's has been making one since at least '92, if not before.
And then you've got me. I'm from Canton, so 12 Dogs is my OG.
Yeah, I agree. I dig 12 Dogs better. But.
Great Lakes Christmas Ale was first brewed in '92, for the record.
So Kenny, you just said you do enjoy 12 Dogs. So it's not the Christmas Ale style you hate. It's just you seem to have an aversion to actual GLBC.
Yeah, well, and I think it may not actually be their fault entirely. They were the first ones that I had where they put that stupid cinnamon rim on the thing and didn't. And I didn't ask. And then the thing I think that irritated me even more was, it's kind of like when you go into the dollar store in October and they have Valentine's Day decorations up. So like in July, it seemed like they would start tapping, or I'm exaggerating, but in like October, they would start tapping Christmas Ale. And I'm like, dude, it's October. There's no reason to tap this shit yet. And then they make it this big rush, and everybody, you're paying $14 or $13 or $12 for a 6-pack of Christmas ale. That there's just so much more better ales, Christmas ales out there. And so, yeah, it's good. It's not it's not. It's decent. Okay, it's fair.
For statement on the record, Barley's brewed their first Christmas ale in '93. Great Lakes was '92. Just
when was 12 Dogs?
For the record, 12 Dogs was way later, I think. Hang on.
Yeah.
Well, because 12 Dogs, the brewer from Great
that's
Lakes ended up brewing 12 Dogs, right?
Yeah, I believe so. That's
supposedly. That is the grand tale that we like to tell.
There's a folklore behind it about.
I've heard a tale that he would go back to Great Lakes carrying an envelope that says original recipe, and would just flash it around that's a tale I've heard.
Yeah.
So I heard a story once that it was, and basically that whoever the guy brewing it at Great Lakes kept asking to make this one change, and Great Lakes said no. And he went to Thirsty Dog at some point, and he made that one change that is now 12 Dogs. I don't know if it's true, but there's one thing different maybe in the 12 Dogs. I can tell you in Medina, there was a place that did a tap takeover or a contest essentially. It was Christmas Ale. It was Great Lakes versus Thirsty Dog, and everybody came in and they would take the drinks and it was just a random vote, and Thirsty Dogs blew Great Lakes away there.
Which one? Yep.
So the Cola Wars of the 80s.
Yes.
Which sounds like another beer idea for Sean over there. Nostalgia, something the Cola Wars or
through my quick search of my notes, I don't have a date for Thirsty Dogs for 12 Dogs Christmas Ale the first time it was tapped.
Oh well, I was just curious.
We're gonna throw 95 out. That's what we're gonna say.
Because I'm a huge I'm a Christmas beer nut. Like I literally this year have gotten every damn Christmas beer I can get my hands on, and I will say that 12 Dogs has always been, being from Canton, right? Like 12 Dogs has always just been my favorite. Barrel aged 12 Dogs is fucking insane. There it is again. I will chug something.
Yeah.
But
Kenny's other 5 Christmas sales.
but I will say the one that surprised me, and I know this will probably draw a lot of flack, but the one that surprised me this year was Platform South Pole Elf.
Oh my God, what are you doing?
Hey, look, I enjoyed it. I stand by it. Don't care.
I don't know. I've enjoyed a lot of Platform. Rob and I got an opportunity to go up. Well, Rob got the opportunity and invited me up. Now, obviously, before they sold to InBev, but we got up and met with Paul and spent an afternoon with him and walked through and kind of got his passion and his vision. I had a kind of an appreciation because my opinion was for the longest time, Platform kind of hurt Great Lakes because Great Lakes to me was putting out a lot of stuff trying to compete with a variety, and they weren't putting out good stuff. And so understanding that kind of whole story on how Platform got started and evolved, I grew a new appreciation for it. And there's platforms I'll still enjoy today. I mean, I don't run out to pick something up because I see it, but
Sure.
you know, if I'm somewhere, I'll get something or somebody gives me one, I'll drink it and enjoy it. And I don't have anything bad to say about them.
So twofold.
Picked up a Yummy.
I like Yummy Yummy. I like it because it's different than anything else out there. When you get into that fall beer, it's just there's something about it.
My favorite Christmas beer, right here. Christmas Pickle.
The Christmas Pickle.
Love it so much.
So to your Great Lakes and AB InBev thing, like twofold. One of the beers that Great Lakes put out this year that I love and hope that it becomes part of their normal rotation is their lemon Hefeweizen. I thought that was insane when it came out this summer. But to the point of AB InBev buying out, breweries and whatnot, when Sarah and I got married, we decided our honeymoon was going to be down in Asheville, which was awesome, right? I wanted to go down there for the beer. She wanted to go down there for the chocolate and, the mansion and everything else, which as an architecture major, I was cool with the man. Like I was cool. Like it was just like my ideal, this is what we're doing. So we get down there, right? First night we get down there. Through the week, everything closes relatively early. So we got down there. The only thing that was open at the time was Wicked Weed. So I was like, okay, we went there. We got some dinner. We went to their bottle shop. I had some friends in a local group that were like, yeah, find this. So after dinner, I spent almost $400 at their bottle shop for people that wanted me to bring stuff back for them. And we get home, back to the hotel. We go to sleep. I wake up the next morning to a shitload of text messages. The night that we bought everything at Wicked Weed on our honeymoon, the following morning is when they announced the sale to AB InBev. So I immediately text everyone and I was just like, so you're still going to pay me for this stuff, right?
But only half.
It was wild. It was insane. And just like down there, just the vibe around everything with that announcement being made, it was nuts.
Oh yeah. I remember that, man. They lost a lot of support.
So we went to Asheville this summer. It was for like 2 days. That was kind of go to Aruba, and we ended up going to Hocking Hills. Not working? Am I dead?
I could barely hear you.
Yeah, we lost you.
Uh-oh.
Who'd we lose?
Oh no.
Sound. We lost sound ending. Like we can barely hear him.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm losing the earpods. I think we're dying. So we were supposed to go to Aruba, and we settled on a cabin in Hocking Hills for a few days, which allowed me to grab some little fish. And then we went down to Asheville for a few days, and we hit Green Man and we hit Burial and stuff like that. But once again, it was it's wrong to say, but the best experience we had in the COVID era down there was sitting outside in the Funkatorium. And nights of sours and stuff like that. We just really, really enjoyed what we were able to do down there with that. And I brought a ton of that back.
Yeah, the Funkatorium, we were down there in October, or not this October, the last, for a wedding. And yeah, the vibe they put out. And you know what? It's like, yeah, AB InBev took over, but I've had stuff over the past 4 or 5 years from them. Their quality, it hasn't suffered at all.
And some of the things they've been able to do have increased because of the money behind them now too.
It's a wild world.
And I think that's what's happened with Platform too. I think they've been able to increase some of the things they've done because now they have that. They're not worried about, especially in the COVID era, they're not worried about where they're going to get the funds to do the next thing they wanted to do. It's already sitting there. So while, InBev is obviously the big bad monster hiding underneath the bed or in your closet or behind the brew kettle, there is some positives, at least for some of these breweries that people grew up loving, at least.
I can't.
Sorry,
I can't.
no.
I can't
I'm sorry,
do it.
no.
I can't do it.
I think he muted me. I think that's what happened.
There are not positives.
Like, this is a rabbit
You can
hole.
kick people out of Zoom calls, right?
Can't do it.
2-hour show.
Yeah, they're okay.
I think their beer was just mediocre to start with, and then that's why I never was a big fan of them from the beginning. But and there's another brewery in Cleveland. I think it's going down the same path. I'm not going to say their name, but like,
See. Sorry.
If
I said it.
If the
I
reason
think they have mediocre beer and they're trying to do the same thing, and I don't care if I don't really care about them, but they got one of the worst Christmas sales ever.
I'll bring us back on the right trajectory.
Let me have one comment on the big beer statement. If the reason you are drinking beer is because of the liquid in your glass, there is no downside to having AB InBev or whoever come in and buy your local brewery. There's no downside. The beer can get better. Whether it does or not is a whole other argument. If it's about the liquid, okay, let it happen and let it shake out the way it is. But to me, craft beer is about a lot more than what's actually in your glass.
Yes, and I've heard that argument many times on many local Facebook craft beer communities that the beer is still good, so who gives a crap who owns them? It matters. It actually does matter.
Matters a lot.
Especially when this year we're talking about a pandemic and wanting to really support our local small breweries.
I will
Let
say
me
that
clarify. I'm not saying that's where I go because Rob can tell you I am extremely local. I'm friends with all these guys around here. I'm just saying it wasn't a bad experience.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear that if the AB InBev offered the pint talking with the Brewers Seville $1 million, I'd sell in a second.
And nobody would blame you.
And let me say that if they offered the Gnome $1 million, I would turn it down. For $1 million, I would turn it down.
To be quite honest,
there is
I'd
a
probably
number,
take
and I don't know what
at
that
this
number
point,
is, but
$500.
$1 million is not the number. On that same topic, my tour of the Budweiser brewery in St. Louis was fantastic. It was fun. It was great time.
That's a massive place, right? I had an Airbnb right across the street from that place. It's like 18 city blocks wide. It's huge.
I had a buddy that went to school in St. Louis, and we visited him a couple times when he was up there in school. And that's what you did on Sundays. You went to the brewery and you just hung out and you took the tour and you would go sit in the little hospitality room. And every time a new tour would come in every half hour, there were people with tickets that didn't really want to drink their beers. So they would just hand their tickets to somebody that was sitting there. And so you could just hang out there all day just drinking for free. It was fun.
Ironically, it's the only place in St. Louis that has money. So
to bring us back.
Try to get this back on track. You do it.
Great Lakes. So they typically had Great Lakes on tap at Browns games, and every time I would go up to a Browns game in November, December, I would have several glasses of Great Lakes while I was freezing, watching the Browns lose for multiple years. So my memories of drinking Great Lakes, although painful from a Browns fan standpoint, it was one of those things where I really enjoy getting that, like 16 ounces of Great Lakes Christmas Ale on draft while at the Browns game. So, my love for Great Lakes Christmas Ale, it's not necessarily the best Christmas beer I've ever tasted, but fond memories from hanging out with my buddies, watching the Browns and having beer at the stadium and that type of thing. But it goes back to this idea of these local breweries. Part of the reason why local breweries are brewing beers, Christmas beers that taste better than Great Lakes is because, it's fresh. It's small batch. It's what craft beer is. Great Lakes to provide this product in such a large scale that they do, and Rob's watching the Packers right now. I can definitely tell.
Don't say what's happening. Don't say what's happening.
The NFL Network, because I don't think I have NFL Network. I think that's the problem.
Oh
Hey,
yeah,
my
that's
question is, do you think Aaron Rodgers' knee will be replaced by playoffs, or?
What?
I'm joking. I want to see Kenny's reaction there.
Seriously pissed me off.
The only important game of the day, OH. Yes.
yeah. Well, they
Oh
sure
my
did
God, did we
scaring
look-
us, didn't they?
Sorry, you guys. If anybody is listening that is in Cincinnati that is a Bearcats fan, this entire season is.
Are there?
Hey, the Fighting Fickles, baby.
Hey, I
Go
love Luke
Cincinnati.
Fickle.
Hey, just to be clear, though, lest anybody believe I don't like Great Lakes, I do like Conway's Irish Ale and Commodore Perry and Nosferatu. Those were great beers. I want to clear the records in case they ever want to be on my show, which they're probably not going to want to be. So it's fine.
I'm a Blackout Stout fan. And Edmund
Oh,
Fitzgerald.
yeah.
I say Edmund Fitzgerald, and every once in a while, Lake Erie Monster.
They do have great beers. It's just their Christmas ale's not my favorite.
I saw they did a barrel release Holy Moses.
Yeah. Holy Moses, and before it was rebranded as, what is it, Chillwave?
Yeah.
What was it before?
I'm not sure.
Oh, crap. There was a copyright infringement or something like that. What was it before? Chillwave. Whatever it was before Chillwave, it was better than Chillwave. And this is probably another one of those Christmas ale arguments with they changed the recipe. But whatever the name was before, I think it was better. Anyway, that was my favorite Great Lakes IPA, and I digress.
Hey, going back to streets, though, 25th. I mean, I know it's Great Lakes and you got Market Garden, but, you've got Forest City up there. You got Hansa. You've got Bookhouse.
Oh.
You got Saucy right there.
Dude.
Isn't
Hansa, like, if you love some traditional beer and love some traditional German, like, I am all about, I will go up there and eat and drink all damn day.
We were up there. My wife and I went up there because she likes going and hitting breweries, and she doesn't like talking to people at breweries like I do, but she likes going to breweries, and she's a stout fan. So we're up there sitting at the bar, and the old man's there, and he comes out and he goes, "What did you get?" And we're telling him what we had ordered and stuff. He goes, "You didn't have my best beer." And he walked into 2 full pints of the Schwarz beer. Said, "This is on me. This is my best beer. Drink this. You can't have schnitzel and not have a Schwarz beer."
Yeah.
Okay. But
It's a similar experience there.
Great experience there.
The Boris?
Yeah.
Must have been Boris.
The old guy came out of the kitchen. That's all I know.
Okay, yeah.
He yelled at me, gave me beer, and walked away. But it was a great experience.
That is a great experience. Yeah, Corey's the brewer over there, and Corey does a fantastic job. They make some great, Brian's right. I mean, traditional German styles. They've won numerous awards. Probably one of the more underrated breweries in all of Cleveland. And the food, the schnitzel, is just,
awesome.
You talk about the experience, Sandy. I mean, what a brewery is about, it's more than just the beer, the experience. Like, go to Hansa, get yourself some schnitzel and get yourself a true German beer. I mean, there's nobody in Cleveland doing it better.
But I think that's a pretty good street up there too, to go along with, 4th Street and
whatever state route Gnome's talking about down there.
127. I don't think it goes through up there. I think it cuts off into the no man's land.
I want you guys to know that I'm on to my fourth beer that's that 14%er. So if you thought I was off the rails a little bit ago, wait about 5 minutes.
Well,
This whole stuff could quickly evolve.
I just dove
This
into
is
some
my
Esther's
first
little
time
secret.
Here. How long does this event go? Do I need
3 days.
another beer?
We
Three
don't.
days.
It's Monday.
We
It'll be
don't know.
Monday where when we go to if we go back to real work.
You're with us for Christmas.
We should
We
probably
haven't
start.
talked to each other in
I'm
a year and a half, so
We
I was
should,
with Raw the other night though, so
we should start probably like winding down the stream for people that are listening, and we can. Still...
Oh, I should give away give that
Oh,
secret
yeah, yeah,
code
yeah.
so people. I'm giving
be sure to drink your Ovaltine.
I'm giving away a Echo Dot
Oh.
on my Facebook and Instagram page, and for the people listening right now, I'm going to give you the secret code to enter tomorrow when I post on those pages. And I think it's only fitting that the secret code be Ohio craft beer. I think that's a good secret code for people. So
like
tomorrow when I post that question, put in Ohio craft beer, you'll be entered in the drawing that I will draw on Monday a winner.
If
So everybody on this
you've
call is
made it
exempt.
this long into the stream,
Anybody can win. You guys are in. I let anybody. I don't give a shit. I don't want it. I'm an Apple guy. I don't need an Amazon.
Oh, I've got so many.
I mean, Brewdog gave it to him,
No,
so
Yeah, Brewdog did give it to me to promote to a couple shameless announcements.
Brewdog is always
what day in
listening.
the advent calendar was that?
That's actually I jumped ahead. That's 26th. It was actually an extra day in my calendar.
on whatever day that is, Brewdog came in and took one of your beers. Oh wait, we've got another.
Right now, there are people bitching they didn't get an echo in their advent calendar.
We've got
Yeah, they're
another.
like, "This son of a bitch."
We've got a call coming in, guys, on the drunk line. Hang on.
Oh.
Ooh, another caller.
Hey, who are we talking to?
What's up, everybody? It's Marco.
I
from
recognize that
Cincinnati.
voice.
Oh,
What's up, Marco?
Hello.
hello.
Yes. So anyway, real quick, I'm going to be short. I saw, because I follow a couple of beer people on Twitter, that his Twitter handle is the Beer Cruncher. He was just promoted at Revolution Brewing in Chicago. But anyways, he said there's more PPP money coming. I haven't seen anything else about that. I don't know if anybody else knows anything about that. But my larger point is that, I've talked to several brewery owners, and they told me that, they had considered just shutting down for slower months, winter months. Other breweries have done things like put up igloos, that kind of thing. You talked about some of that before. And then I presently am employed at a place that is shut down to do some interior renovations and things like that.
It's a nice way to put it.
You like that? How I put that?
Yeah, I like that.
No, you like that? So my point is, everybody's situation is different, right? I don't want to know. Would you rather be open, and have 10 customers or no customers, or do shipping, delivery, or whatnot? What I really want to know is, if a brewery pivots to decide to not be open, does everybody automatically assume it's doom and gloom, or can we go to thinking that everybody's trying to do their best to find a way to move into the next few months where it's already going to be slow? We know it's going to be slow. And then, as an example, I've got Christmas ale in the tank that, since we're not open, nobody's going to drink. My plans, go ahead and flip it into barrels, which, by the way, I have beer in barrels,
and I was going to plan on emptying those barrels in January, so I'm going to throw that into barrels. And so what? I know we kind of touched on a little bit of that earlier, but all of those pivots and things. I mean, can we agree that everyone's trying to find ways around this, but more than that, especially with some of the Cincinnati like publicity around some weird stuff recently.
It's a nice way to put it.
Can we at first give places the benefit of the doubt before we decide to hammer a nail in their coffin, so to speak? And I'll hang up and listen for the response.
Yeah, yes and no.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Marco.
All right,
we'll dive into all of this. There's a lot of stuff going on there. So
let's do it, and then we'll drink. All right, bye.
See you later. So yes and no. We can definitely give places the benefit. This is my perspective. You guys can chime in too. Yes and no. We can give places the benefit of the doubt when things pop up. Shout out to Taft's and the chaos that's happening around there. That's a whole other topic. I will definitely dive into that on Monday on the Weekly Pint. That'll probably be the entirety of the show. But yes, we can give places the benefit of the doubt unless stuff is in writing. If people are saying one thing and then doing something else, that's a whole different ball game. Without being specific about Taft's or whoever we want to talk about, you guys kind of chime in on that a little bit and talk about when something happens, especially now in the middle of COVID, when something happens online or I guess that's the only place people talk about beer right now is online. The benefit of the doubt versus jumping on people versus letting them letting the story develop.
I can talk from a personal perspective here. It's one of those things where it's really difficult because it's not, you're dealing with people, and a lot of these people have become your friends, even as an owner or a manager, you've become friends with the people that work for you, and you see the passion that they have for your business. And shutting down the tap room, even if the business is slow, they're still making some money, and the business is making some money. The question is, from a business standpoint, are you making enough money to keep things going? And some of the places, it might not make sense where, if they're paying rent and the people that they're paying rent to say, well, if you're open, you have to pay rent. If you're closed, we'll take that into consideration. It may not be enough to pay rent. However, if some places own their own building and don't have to pay rent, or have, a lender that's willing to, forgo some rent payments during this time, like there are a lot of factors that are behind the scenes that you don't see as a consumer. So, if the people that own the building that you're renting from say, we understand that you're slow, we understand that you're making 30%, 40% of what you typically make right now, we'll defer your rent until 2023, something like that, if you're a long-term, renter. But I think the biggest thing is, like, from a shutting down standpoint, if you have really good employees, it's really difficult to hire really good employees. And what's the cost of you shutting down, losing those employees, and not having the ability to hire those employees back when you're ready to reopen? If it's a 3-month, situation where, like, in March, things start to get better, April, things start to get better, outdoor dining comes back and people feel more comfortable, that's only 3 months. And your inability to hire people that understand your brand and understand your culture and everything else, like that is way more costly than 3 months worth of slow sales. But everybody's in a unique position, and you have to make those business decisions that are tough, and that's why people are in those positions to make them.
Was Marco talking about completely closing down, or just closing down the tap room and still having to go?
So Marco's perspective, and I don't want to speak for him, but I'll speak for him. The place that Marco works for is a winery and a brewery. They announced kind of it was a little bit of a surprise when they announced it to everybody that worked there also. I'm not trying to speak out of turn here, but they announced that they were closing down all of on-site sales, which isn't a big deal for their wine business, because most of their wine they sell in grocery stores and things like that and all around the state, and it's fantastic. But their beer, they don't distribute their beer anywhere. It's only sold on-site in their tasting room. Yes. Sorry, just things started happening for a chat. Yes. So for his perspective, the ownership closed all on-site sales, and for the beer side of things, that means all sales completely. For the wine side of things, maybe not so much. Does that?
Yeah, no, I see. So he mentioned, like, can we say that that's not putting the nail in the coffin? And I think absolutely it's not putting the nail in the coffin, because so many people are doing it. You know what I mean? There's
now the chat
there's a lot of
screen,
people going to that model where they're just selling curbside and online. So I don't think that going to that means that you're going to be out of business in 3 months or whatever. I think there's probably so many variables involved that who knows, but I don't think that, I think we could say, and I don't speak for all you guys, but I think we could say that doesn't mean they're over by any means.
But
I mean, I think to your point, there's so many other variables involved, like Kenny, right? Like, I mean, Missing Mountain locally, right? For us in Northeast Ohio, very small tap room, probably one of the best patios in all of Northeast Ohio. Great patio, great outdoor experience, tiny tap room, right? So you hit November, you hit December, and you lose that ability to have that patio space. You can't have a safe, socially distanced atmosphere in a tap room the size of Missing Mountains. So they made the decision to shut down and go to a curbside only model. Now, Arche in downtown Akron, completely different scenario. Arche modeled themselves after the Rheingeist model. Their whole downtown production facility is built off of Rheingeist. Huge open space, 50,000, 60,000 square feet, huge space. Like, you could easily have, we talk about 6 feet of social distance, you could have 10, 12 feet of social distance and still pack that place.
Yeah.
It's a different scenario, and every single brewery is different, and some breweries have to make a decision. My tap room is really small. I can't keep people safe in this scenario, and so we have to shut down and go to a different thing. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world for them. It doesn't mean it's curtains, lights out. It's just a decision that individual brewery has to make because of their situation.
I think that November, December, January, February, March in Ohio is going to be the hardest anyways. With, when the pandemic hit in March, we were getting into the warmer times, and you could put people outside. This is going to be the real test. And it's not just, brewery A or brewery B. It's everybody's kind of going to run into this, except for those anomalies like Arche, where they have 45,000 square feet of space that they can get a bunch of people in. But you couldn't do that in his down in the Merriman Valley, and he's got 8 square feet of space down there. So yeah, I think we're in a huge, this is the huge test right now, because here it's just cold as balls up here in the north part. It's going to get colder and snowier, and you can't go outside and drink beer. Well, I could. I'm like a polar bear, but I'm an anomaly myself. So,
but does that change every time you guys talk on the chat on Zoom? It does pop up on the live stream, just so you guys know. Does it change the perspective from like the average craft beer drinker though that is used to their spot, and this is the way things are, and then when that place says, hey, we're closing, we're just take out only, or does that change for the average drinker?
I think the mindset changes, and I'm only going to speak because like the Youngstown area, everything's so spread out in Youngstown.
Right.
So you have your favorite spot to go to, and it's not like you can go to the next brewery, a couple blocks up the street or one block over or whatever it is. And all of the places up here are a little unique. Modern Methods, for example, did not reopen for the longest time because he went to all just get it out as much as he could out into stores and restaurants and such. And had he reopened, he would have been out of beer in a weekend because people would have flocked to that tap room. And he didn't have a really good outside space the way it was structured there. His tap room, he couldn't social distance. He could get like 8 people at a time in that tap room. And then when they started lifting some of the restrictions to be able to expand out into the public spaces and stuff like that a little more, he was able to open up. But once it got colder, once again, he has to go back in. And so there are probably some people, with that being one of the only breweries in that area, them in Clubhouse, that people have to have that mindset like, oh crap, he was open, now he's pulled back again. I think for the I don't want to say novice craft beer drinker, but for the people to just focus on going to one place all the time, that's the only place they know and where they want to be, there's got to be a little fear there that stuff like that's going to close down.
I think so. I think you're kind of right. I mean, I still think that if you're going to the same brewery 3, 4, 5 times a week, and I've been to breweries where I know there's definitely that 3 or 4 or 5 time a week crowd, I think they're going to still go there and support the to-go model. I just I don't know that that's enough to keep them afloat. You know what I mean? So it is scary for sure.
It goes back to the idea of, the business behind it, the dollars and cents, a can, a label, a, pack tech, topper, everything that goes into a can and the costs associated with 4 cans and 4 labels and everything. You're taking away money from the business when you purchase that 6-pack or 4-pack or whatever, instead of buying draft beer. The margin just isn't there. And that's where, you can't sell a 4-pack for $24. Nobody's going to buy it. Well, at least like normal beer. There might be some crazy stuff that people are willing to buy. But, you're looking at like, some people might support you if you have a higher dollar cost for a while, but if you're selling 4 packs for $20 of lager, people just aren't gonna buy it. So at the end of the day, it's how long can you go selling cans where you're making very little money instead of making a lot of money in your tap room? And I think someone like Arche, for example, like they shifted a lot of business to cans, and it's incremental sense that they're making on those versus tap room when it's, a crowded tap room making way more. Mad Tree, Rhine guys, same way. Like,
I think the guys that are really getting hurt are the ones that have to call in a contractor to can. Like if you've got your own canning line, and you're able to can, I mean, yeah, you have to pay for the label, but you're not, if you can can and distribute from your own tap room to go, you're in a better situation than if you have to have what seems to be the only canning people in Ohio, Ironheart, come in and can for you. You're making 37 cents a can or whatever. What's the point at that? You know what I mean? Like at that, you're really losing, you're hurting.
Yeah.
I think the model changes to where you would put stuff in cans and distribute it out, certain things to get more people into your tap room. Like, oh, this is good, I want to go there and try the other stuff they have. Where now you're trying to get everything out just to make sure you can sell it.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. I mean, you go a step further and it's, businesses with distributors, there's extra money going to the distributors. So, the self-distribution model helps businesses, but also it's time, effort, money, people that's involved in getting beer out there. So it's like, no matter how you look at it, it's difficult. And, people with distributors, they're most likely in all of the big stores. So they're churning through at Kroger, at, wherever they're at. Whereas self-distribution, it might only be small craft beer stores. It's tough.
There's only so much shelf space.
That's true. And I am I the only one that wonders this is why in the hell there's only like one mobile canning company in the state?
Well,
it seems like Ironheart's the only one available. Why haven't we opened our own canning line, all of us right now?
Because
let's put our money together. We probably have a couple thousand together, and we can buy ourselves a mobile canning line.
It's a little more complicated than just opening a canning line, but it's also, if you start to create any kind of waves in that, they'll just buy you out at this point.
All right, so we put 2,000 and we get bought out for 10,000. We're good. Let's go.
Yeah, it's a little more complicated than just opening a canning line in the back of a truck.
Yeah, it shocks me that there's only like one that I know of. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's more down in the South. I don't know.
There's not anymore.
Okay.
As far as I know.
I mean, it's like anything, the capital that you have to support having the amount of cans to can up, a crazy amount of beer every single day. Like their schedule is packed full, and they're moving from one place to the next to the next to the next. And I mean, like you're basically putting your signature on a company's beer, saying like, we're going to do this in the best way possible. So if we represent your beer on shelf, it's going to be, low dissolved oxygen pickup and this, that, and the other. Like, you have to have some real quality checks in place for these people to trust you to do their business. And, because you're the last stop before it touches the consumer's lips. Like, I think that's a lot of pressure, and that's probably why there's only one big one that does it, because they do it well, and they have built up the trust from an amount of time doing it right.
Yeah, if it's just as simple as dropping a couple $1,000s into creating your own canning line business, all of these breweries would just drop a couple $1,000s into putting their own canning line in.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I know there's those canning lines are probably $20, $30, $40, $50,000.
Keep going.
Yeah.
And
so I was
the people to run it well too. Like it's
trying out a couple different ones. It's if you want something that you can grow with, you're looking at six figures.
Yeah,
you're hitting 100,000.
Yeah.
Anything less than that you're very limited. Your upgrades are very hard to do. I mean, it gets pricey. So it's definitely an investment. It's definitely one that they really have to think about as far as what they're putting out in cans versus, what they're not, and do they want to make that investment? And then there's the attachments, because there's all kinds of attachments.
Yeah,
sure.
Depalletizers and can rinsers and pack tech applicators, and I mean, you can spend $100,000 in just the pieces that go around it. Do you want a labeler, or do you want to label it yourself? Do you want? I mean, it's wild.
But 55 cases a minute is nice.
Yeah.
Because I've done the sit there on the end of the assembly line, and if you get 20 cases an hour, you're great. 55 cases an hour is nice.
Well, I know a brewer up here. Go ahead, Sean. Sorry.
I was just gonna say I do about 5 cases an hour, so that's sweet.
Yeah, but you said there were 2 of you, so you got to ask for volunteers. I drive the one day to help out.
So there's a brewer south of me, a brewery, and they just bought an automated I think it's a single head automated. They can do 7 barrels in like 2 or 3 hours.
Is it one of the Goslings or whatever?
Yeah, it's a Gosling, and it's
Yeah.
got the labeler on it. I think he paid somewhere north of like 65,000 or something for it. Some ridiculous amount of money.
The Volunteers River Brewing Company, they have a Gosling that they just started, and yeah.
He loves it. Says it's a great machine. I mean, seven barrels in a couple hours is not bad, considering I know guys that have the ones like you have that are, you know, canning 7 barrels in a day.
Yeah.
So.
It's good times though.
Oh yeah, I bet. I'm sure.
And lots of fun canning 40, 50 cases of beer.
Especially if you got like some full containment Project Dark Angel 14% beer to drink while you're canning it. I'm sure it's fantastic. Labels upside down and everything.
Brian Vick has been very quiet lately. I think he's sleeping.
No, yeah.
I think Brian got into the bourbon.
No. I was just listening. It's an area that I really can't speak to, so I was just taking it all in.
Facebooking. He was Facebooking earlier.
Sandy has helped. So Sandy has been one of those volunteers helping with canning, and so that's awesome.
It's interesting.
Yes, it is. Volunteering to can is a fun day. I mean, if the guy you're working for is good, it's a fun day.
Yeah. If you get to go home with a free beer or two, it's worth it.
It is worth it.
Low fills are a must.
If you guys, as we wrap things up, because we're at 2.5 hours. If you
and I haven't peed since like the beginning of hour 1. I'm gonna have to go soon, and my dog's whining like hell out here.
Can you air quote one more time though?
If you want people to know something about Ohio beer from your perspective, what is that thing that you want them to know? I should have put that in the list,
first.
I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I think what people need to realize about Ohio beer in general, Ohio craft beer, is that it's such a close-knit community from Cleveland to Cincinnati and everywhere in between. You know, all of the brewers, all of the owners are just so willing to help everybody, at least, you know, the people that I know. And I think that the support that you give every single one of them is so valued. And, you know, it's something where you're supporting a community. You're not just supporting one brewery, you're supporting a community, because you're holding the whole craft beer, Ohio craft beer, together by supporting that community. So that's my big thing.
I think to add on to what Sean said is, I think that Ohio craft brewers, and I've been to breweries in other states, I think Ohio takes great pride in the quality of beer that they put out. I think I can honestly say, I mean, I've been to breweries in PA, I've been to Maryland and Virginia and North Carolina, Texas. I've been all over, and honest to God, I think that Ohio has put out some of the best quality craft beer, and I think that that's because they give a shit. They really give a shit about the product that they put out, and I think that's important. And I'm really fucked up, and I will drink whatever you want me to drink, but I'm honest to God, though, they really are. I think that's the key point, is that Ohio brewers care what they put out.
I think jumping on that real quick, the idea of community. I've never come across a community in Ohio that was hurt by a craft brewer. Like, people start thinking like, oh, breweries coming in, that's gonna be bad. I have only seen breweries do positive things for those communities. They're involved in fundraisers. They're involved in community projects and volunteering. I think a brewery makes a community better, and I think that's why you see a lot of breweries opening now in smaller towns that don't have anything like that versus trying to open in some of the bigger cities, because they're just that mindset, that blue collar, small town. Let's improve not only what we can do, but what everybody else around us can do.
Yep.
No question. I think there's something idealistic about the brewing industry in general. Like, I mean, it's just, I mean, to a man, most brewers will tell you, you don't do this because you want to make a ton of money, right? Like, most of them are really passionate about the craft. They're passionate about beer. They're passionate about raising up their communities. You know, how many studies have we seen that says that, you know, a brewery comes in town and property values rise? You know, it's just one of those industries that seems to make a community better. Like, I don't know, it's a different industry than anything that I've dealt with in my life. I've worked in retail my entire life, and retail is extremely cutthroat. And the craft beer community is the antithesis of that. Like, right? I mean, everybody wants to help everybody else. A rising tide lifts all boats. Everybody looks out for each other. Everybody knows each other. I don't know. It's different. It's a community you want to support. It's a community you want to get behind.
So I've got two messages I'd like to leave people with. First of all, beer tourism is my thing. Get out there. Pick up a brewery passport in Columbus, in Cleveland, in Summit County, in Dayton, wherever there is one in the state. Download the Ohio on Tap online brewery passport and just go explore when it's safe to do so and when you feel comfortable doing so. And I'll get out there again when I feel comfortable doing so. But get out there and explore your state. Through all of these passport programs, I've gone to parts of my state that I had never visited. I've saw and met people and landscapes and small towns that I just didn't know about. And it's great to get out there. And the second message is, please be gentle on social media. There's this whole thing with cancel culture right now where any business makes one small misstep or maybe a misinterpreted step, and the pitchforks come out and people blast them on social media. So I'm asking people to please be kind and think before you comment and put yourself in the minds of the small business owners. So.
And on top of what Sandy says, if a guy named the Brewer Seville posts a BrewDog link on a Facebook group, don't be an asshole.
I'll play off both of those, right? Just because I'm not traveling or visiting or, you know, anything really like anyone else is. I've been part of many groups, and many of them that reside outside of the beer community. I've been admins, you know, in said groups and whatnot. And I am a very hands-off kind of person. I like to allow people to really put their best foot forward, I should say. But in this year, especially with everyone being at home, it's much easier to hide behind a computer screen. And it's not just with the breweries, but it's with the people that are frequenting them. It's with your friends. It's with anybody that you interact with on these groups. And my big thing is just, you know, we touched on it way earlier in the show with, you know, whatever your stance is on COVID or masks or anything like that, or what your stance is on what's going to come in this year and how you feel comfortable about getting back out or not. It just comes down to decency. Be a decent person, right? You've seen so many people in the beer community rise up and be more than decent to, you know, fellow brewers or fellow, you know, craft beer drinkers or just anyone in need, right? My message is just simply stop being a dick. right? Realize that if you weren't behind that keyboard, you wouldn't be saying a lot of what you're saying or doing, or anything like that, right? There are reasons that different groups exist, and I would like to say that the people on this call tonight are some of the most genuine individuals that I've ever met. Understand that none of this is easy for any of us. Be a good person at the root of all of it. And that will speak volumes through not just craft beer, but everything else that we're coming into, going into 2021. Just be a good person. And you know what? Good people love beer. And when good people love beer and good people love good beer, the sky's the limit.
Anybody having a Bill and Ted moment right now? Be excellent.
Be excellent to each other.
Yes. And party on, dude.
We're all going to keep drinking in our own corners of the state, and for everybody that's stuck in here this long in the stream, thank you very much. I promise that at some point, normalcy will return.
Yeah,
it will. We're on our way there. Let's everybody plug your sites, your blogs, your Facebook pages, whatever it is that you want people to go to and take part in. Start with Brian.
Northeast Ohio Craft Beer Community, or one of the best.
Northeast Ohio Craft Brewery News, but it's the breweries that make it happen, right? They're the community centers. They're the people that we're supporting. They're the reason that we're all in this to begin with.
The flight crew, and like Rob said, we get flights everywhere, and we want to go out and report on good beers that breweries are doing and good people that are working there.
My next.
Yeah, go ahead, Sean. You're next.
No, whatever. Well, so I have the Facebook feed pulled up, so I see like it's Brian, Gnome, Jason, like across the top. So I'm trying to figure out if Gnome's gonna go or if he's moderating, so the rest of us are gonna go. So anyway, Nostalgia Brewing, you can get here in Ohio. Stop by for a beer flight. If you're in the area, we're close to the airport in Columbus, so would love to have you there. And if you are outside of the area, unfortunately we don't ship beer, but get a hold of me and we can talk business.
Yeah, and you got to go just for the menu board alone, made out of all freaking Legos.
I mean, Sean's a master Lego builder.
Wait. Lego. It's
Lego
made out
obsession.
of Lego. The plural of Lego is Lego.
Yes.
need to put that out there.
And the food. I don't know if it's an all-time menu thing, but the brisket mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yes, it is.
No, good food. It's hard to get the word out. We have really good food, and that's another thing with the shutdown. The amount of people that frequent tap rooms, with it being lower. The food side of places, like people that are drinking one beer and then leaving. They're not necessarily having dinner. They're not necessarily having 3 or 4 beers and having food after the second or third beer. So, it makes the kitchen side really hard, and, it makes the ordering food side really hard, because how do you plan for a really busy weekend when you don't know if it's going to be a really busy weekend? Like, you kind of have to throw darts blindfolded and hope that, you do okay. And so that's been real tough. Like, the food part is awesome. Having food at a brewery, we don't have to depend on a food truck, but if we had to depend on a food truck right now, we'd be in a lot better shape in terms of not having food inventory and that type of thing. So I don't know, another side of the brewery brew pub side is just crazy during this time. And, hopefully we can skate by with carry out and I will say, I'll give a shout out to Toast, our point of sale system. They've been awesome in terms of pivoting themselves and making it making online ordering in that type of thing a possibility. They actually have a food delivery service through one of the food delivery. I won't say which one because I don't know which one. I don't want to plug one and not the other. But they have a partnership with a food delivery service, and it's all grouped together. So I think even outside of just breweries, it's the companies that support breweries are pivoting to help breweries survive and restaurants survive. And I think that's really cool to see industries that are connected help out in ways that you never thought would be possible before this.
It's either me or Sandy.
And I'll stop talking because I could talk for another like 3 hours, and we've already gone 3 hours. So.
I'm going to let the lady go first.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So, okay, I'd love to have more people follow me, mostly on Instagram at The Brewery Log, also Facebook, The Brewery Log, and I do have a blog site, www.thebrewerylog.com, but I'm not really posting full stories there as much because I really like to just do little quick hits with here's a beer I had, here's a brewery I visited, and just give you a little few fun facts about that place or that beer. And you can follow me along my adventures as I'm studying for the Certified Cicerone exam next year. And when I get to travel again, I'll show you not just Ohio breweries, but hopefully breweries worldwide. So I hope to have you join me.
Sandy, you do an awesome job. You really bring out the best of every beer that you drink, and regardless of what you're drinking, I'm like, man, that sounds awesome. I need to get some of that. So nice work.
Thank you.
And you can follow me at the Brewer Seville. It's at the Brewer Seville on Instagram and Facebook. I've never done the plug this drunk before.
That's the Arche talking.
It is totally. You can listen to me on any place where you can download podcasts. The Pint Talking with the Brewer Seville. I am fucking all this up. My season 2 starts back up on January 29th. My first guest could be Fred Karm from Hop and Frog. And then on January 4th, 5th, 6th, somewhere in that area, I'm going to put out a beer and review. I'm going to have a new co-host. It's going to be fun. We're going to really have a lot of good times this year. So check it out, man. And don't forget, you can win that Amazon Echo Dot if you enter in, I forgot the damn code. What was it? Ohio Craft Beer. I put it in I commented on the live feed, Ohio Craft Beer. So
hashtag sponsored by BrewDog.
That's what happens when you drink a bandana. Well, everybody, thank you very, very, very much for making another Ohio beer news review, whatever we call this thing, a smashing success. Everybody that's hung out on the live stream, thank you very much. Brad has chimed in to throw a link to Fretboard Brewing, which is his brewery. Everybody click on that, and anybody else that is on the live stream that wants to plug what they are doing, do that. Thank you guys very much.
I personally have ordered delivery from Fretboard, so it's they deliver all throughout Ohio as well. So
yes, they do. I have some Uwa. I think that's the name of the beer. I think that's what we call it.
The Woolly Pig.
I've got it sitting in the fridge, just waiting for me, and I haven't tried it yet. So everybody, we'll probably hang out here for a few more minutes and drink together. All the rest of you guys, I'm sorry that you miss out on that excitement. Tune in next year. I don't know what that means. I don't know where it's going to be or if it's going to look like this, but we're going to do this again in some capacity. So thank you guys for hanging out with us. This is something. This is a show of some kind.